What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Landscape Accelerator Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Justin Chesser. I'll have you introduce yourself, my man. Just tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and we'll roll from there.
Yeah, sure. So first, my name is actually Alex. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be here or not. I'm just joking. Sorry. I got dad jokes for days, right? No, my name is Justin Chesser. I'm from Troy, Missouri. I'm 34, married 10 years this year, actually got 2 kids. Together, we both have multiple businesses. So we're definitely like the small business owner, entrepreneur couple, if that makes sense. We're into several different things, but it's been a fun journey for the last multiple years and looking forward to the next multiple years too.
Right on, man. Sweet. So what are the different businesses that you run, and what are the different services that are accompanied with all of those things, and kind of just give us the overview of everything that you got going on as far as the world of business for you.
Yeah. So my first lawn care is my oldest, longest. That's my baby. That right there. I started cutting grass with a $50 silver Craftsman riding mower when I was 13. And every year since then, I've been in lawn care. And so, of course, for the first several years, it was just me, doing between 15 and 20 yards myself after work on the weekend, stuff like that. And then as we grew, I had to have a helper. We did probably, I'd say 40 to 60 yards every single week, both after both of our jobs and on the weekends as well. And that's why I called it On My Own Time Lawn Care. Never really expected for it to grow like what it did. Hindsight being 2020, of course, looking back, I'm like, man, I maybe should have done better picking a more professional name, but we're so established with our reputation and everything else, it would just be counterproductive to change it now. So now I just embrace it. We, like I said, the lawn care landscape. So those services, just basic weekly lawn care on that. We don't do treatments, fertilizer. We partner with other companies and kind of sub that out. We do landscaping services, aerations. In the wintertime, we do Christmas lights, snow plowing, spreading salt, stuff like that. And then that's where 2 years ago, that's when we started the Lincoln County Salt Guys, a partner of mine. We went in together on that. So we're the only ones in our area that sells bulk salt. And then we're the only ones on this side of the state that make and sell bulk treated salt. We sell bagged items as well, stuff like that. But it works out pretty well. One of my newer companies is Rubbers and Lube. I've been an AMSOIL dealer for a very long time, and I started doing that because it was cheaper to buy oil, and it's like the best oil, one of the best oils on the market. I'm not like, oh, AMSOIL is the only option. Like, there's other good options too, but AMSOIL is solid, and so becoming a dealer for it made sense. Well, when my tire supplier retired, that was an unintentional pun. I asked him, I said, hey, how am I going to keep getting my tires? Because he was giving me great deals pretty much at cost. And so he got me set up, and I created Rubbers and Lube. So now we sell tires and oil. I don't do oil changes. I don't mount and balance tires, mainly because we go through so many tires every year. But also now friends, family, stuff like that, I can give them really great prices on tires. Posted is like a social media marketing agency that I started several years ago. That's kind of been put on the back burner in the last year or two, honestly. But it works really well because, there's so many ways to do, there's always more than one way to skin a cat. What we offer with that is just reliable, consistent quality posts. So we'll create the content, post it out there using post scheduler, stuff like that. Mainly for the other small business owners that don't really want to pay $500 to $1,000 a month for this, but they also are busy. We always would make fun of one of my friends because we'd always say, well, we know that Jacob's broke because he would make a post and share it to 80 different Facebook groups all in the area, right? And when he's busy, he wasn't thinking about it, so he's not posting, right? When he was slow and needed money, like I said, when he was broke, we knew it. It's just a joke. He wasn't really broke, but that was to solve that issue there. And so by utilizing America's number one, well, in my opinion, number one untapped labor force, and that's the stay-at-home mom. They're always available for the most part, whenever they want. They can do it anytime they want. It's a true work from home job. And they're always on social media. So as long as you can spell your grammar, your sentence structure, and then we just pull different images and different, quotes or whatever, something motivational, engaging stuff, the biggest thing for us is like, we make a lot of posts about pets. Here's our dogs, show us your dogs. It's not so much all about, hey, hire me for your lawn care. It's, hey, what kind of animal do you have? And then it just keeps your name or your company in front of other people, because you've now given them common ground to connect over. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this guy has some cool dogs. I got cool dogs. We're just going to hire him.
Yeah, establishing more of that personal connection with your audience and with your, clients is important.
Yes,
it's not pitching all the time.
Yep. So then the Professional Lawn Care Network of St. Louis, I started that a long time ago. Some people will call it like a lawn care union. That's not really my goal. And I really kind of don't like that term, just because the stigma that's associated with it. Yeah. But it is sort of like that. It's more of an alliance. We are pulling everybody together. So in that group, it's based around St. Louis. There's over 150 verified, legitimate decision-making business owners in regards to lawn care landscape. We were doing shared marketing with a shared website. So it's interactive. You could click on your area where you lived around St. Louis, and it would give you your top choices provided by us that are from our dues paying members, Yeah. And so that worked out pretty decent. We had some issues with the website. We shut that down, but it's still a very, very good resource for owners in the area, stuff like that. And then I guess my newest project is I acquired a very old food trailer, very cheap. And I bought it because for my wife, she owns a bakery. And I thought maybe she could use it for that. She's like, nah, I don't like it. It's ugly. Okay, cool. So then I was just going to sell it. And I'm like, wait, this is perfect for me, because I've been looking for a way to like give back to our community, because I was born and raised here. My family, I know almost everybody that's been around for a long time, and like they've all done very good at supporting both myself, my wife, all of our friends. So how do we give back? And like, we can't do babysitting, but childcare is a huge issue everywhere, right? But then also like we got a lot of underprivileged people in our area. And so a lot of people and even kids struggle with food and healthy eating and stuff like that. And while it's not like super healthy, the idea is it's going to be an actual legit 501c3. We're going to accept donations and be purely donation based. I'm not doing it for profit. But the idea is to use a small little trailer and be able to warm up stuff like soups, chilies, hot dogs, brats. I don't really want to make items in the trailer, and because we're utilizing a lot of volunteers to pass this food out. So if it's right there, they can grab a dish, put some food in it, and absolutely no charge. Like, I don't want any money in the trailer. I don't want people. And like, even for donations, like if you get up there, you want to donate to the cause, that's fine. But I want to make it to where I just don't want to put any of my volunteers in a bad situation where there's money in the trailer and somebody else might want that money. Then, there are still a few bad apples. So I just got to be wise about that. But that's slowly gaining some steam and moving forward there as well. So besides that, and then I have like a small online store, Average Joe's Tactical is what I call it. We sell and help new guys with tactical gear, building their kit, stuff like that, recommendations, reviews, all that kind of thing. Shooting classes, tactical training, all the tactical gear. I've tried so many hobbies over the years. I just don't have time to connect with my friends to go ride side by sides or go out on the river and go fishing or something. So shooting, tactical gear, stuff like that over the years has become my number one main only hobby, just because I can go out in the backyard and have a blast myself, blow off some steam, let a couple rounds down range, and then come back and get back to work. So that's about it for all of that. I don't have a business for like our rental properties, but we do also have a few rental properties that we rent out. And then eventually one day, my next goal, I think, is probably to get into like a boat and RV storage lot. I don't want storage units. To start, I'll probably just dump some gravel, spread it around, put up a fence, cameras, and charge to park your boat and your RV.
Right on. Cool. Sweet, man. So when it comes to landscaping, I know that was kind of your first business venture. What did you do before that? Like any previous jobs, previous experience, what kind of led you into the landscaping industry?
So when I was 13 is when I started cutting grass, and I did that till I was 15. And at 15, I had my first real job, uh, stocking a feed store here in town. And then at 16, I started driving. So I got another job as a construction laborer for a couple. Like I would bounce around between a couple of the different local construction guys, construction crews, just cleaning up after their crews, stuff like that. And that kind of snowballed into working for bigger construction companies. And I did that through high school and kind of into college on top of cutting grass. And then I had multiple jobs throughout those years. And then I would say about 2012 ish, maybe, I started working for General Motors. I had a few different jobs inside the plant, but majority of my time was spent as a hand sprayer, painting the insides of the doors of the vans as they go down the line. And then the rest, my remaining years there was on a forklift. And after 8 or 9 years there, I left. And that was about 4 years ago now. So I've technically been jobless for 4 years, just running my own stuff, doing my own stuff. I really struggled in the beginning because, you get a lot more freedom like that. But like for me, I'm a very lazy person. I procrastinate terribly. And so like I'll work so much harder to try to get out of work than if I was just to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So, the first couple months I was kind of flailing around, and like I still, I don't have it together. I don't claim to be on top of everything. It's kind of still just putting out fires. But no, I didn't really have any. I had no business background. Didn't go to. I went to college for 2 years, but I went to college to be a state trooper. I ended up joining a fraternity, and well, it just became a waste of money and time. So I left college after 2 years, and that was when I actually went to GM. And so, like I said, I've kind of bounced around. Majority of everything that I've done job wise, though, has been either in the trades or outdoor work, if that makes sense. But I wouldn't say that I'm technically a jack of all trades, but I could go to almost any company at this point in town and be able to jump in and help them, even for a little bit, even if it's small or whatever. I think that being well-rounded and having different knowledge in different areas would drastically help. And I mean, it even helps with my business. We go and do a quote for, let's say a restaurant. Well, there's things about the restaurant that you have to know, or it'd be nice to know before you bid their landscape job and potentially cause damage, not damage, but like if you're not paying attention to the different aspects of how they take the trash out or where all their water is running from the downspout, stuff like that. You just got to kind of have that knowledge to be able to quote that project better.
Absolutely. So how do you balance your time between all these different businesses and ventures? Because I like how you have a lot of them that kind of work together, right? Where, you've got the network, which the social media stuff can help those guys, and you've got your lawn care business, and then the salt obviously feeds into that in the wintertime. So they're all like, I can connect the dots. They all work together, but I can see how, sometimes probably that's a lot to manage all at once. So what do you kind of do as far as, I'm sure that if you're anything like me, it's probably an organized mess, but, how do you manage your time? How do you keep track of everything that's going on with the different parts and moving pieces?
Oh man, I honestly, in the last 2 years, I've hired a VA, and that has drastically helped. And so I'm a very big advocate for hiring VAs and like having people in your life that are organized. I am not organized. I am the captain. I have a nice ship, but it is a very, very chaotic ship, right? So, I back to like I said, I don't have any, formal training, no business school, nothing like that. Just kind of happened how it happened. And so I do tell people that I am kind of the king of fake it till you make it. And I understand that there's a lot of other people that do the same thing. I don't really have, other than, my lovely wife and then Kristen, my VA, keeping me as organized as they humanly can, scheduling things on my calendar, stuff like that. Honestly, man, I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. Sure, if I was more organized and I had a better plan and I had a more structured schedule, yeah, that would be great. That'd be awesome. But I I haven't sat down to actually make that come to fruition.
When you talk about the VA, what exactly are they managing and what's their day-to-day responsibilities? Because virtual assistants, all that stuff. Obviously, I'm involved in digital marketing and stuff like that. So that's a world that I'm very familiar with.
Sure.
But a lot of the, boots on the ground, blue collar landscaping, like those guys, the term VA is something they might have never heard of, but they could be a very good tool for their business as well. So if you could talk about like what that person does for your business and also maybe how you found them and how you can integrate that into your business, that'd be sweet.
Yeah. So basically, I was at a point where, like, because I started as a one-man show, had some little side help. I was paying them $5 a cash a yard, and then I had years go by, and I had to start hiring employees, and we got up to like 13 different employees, and like I'm still running the company from my phone, driving around on a forklift. I'm like, this is stupid. I gotta change something. So I couldn't justify hiring a full-time secretary. Couldn't really find a secretary that wanted to work part-time, whether it was from their home or they come over to my home office, whatever. So then I started just seeing more people talk about having a VA. And of course, when you start searching, now all of the ads are going to be VA out of the country, everywhere, whatever. Yep. Well, I don't even know who made the connection, but there's actually a local lady in my town. Her name's Kristen. She owns Simplified Services, and I highly recommend her. But any VA, as long as they're vetted properly. But I got to talking to her, and of course, having her do what I want her to do, she's going to see the inside of everything. She's going to have access to bank accounts. She's going to have access to customer, like all the things where if the wrong person had this information, it could cripple me. Right. So I think getting past that barrier to be able to trust a complete stranger. Well, then as we kept talking, come to find out, I actually worked with her husband at General Motors. So I already had a connection there. Then I found out, well, obviously she lives around in the area. So we actually have Tuesdays are our office days where I go to her home office. We go through all the different quotes that she's scheduled. We push out all the quotes from the last week, all that kind of stuff. So just, I guess, getting out and finding and vetting the right person to do what you need. You just need to make a list of, hey, these are the things that I can delegate. These are the things that somebody else can do that don't have to have my interaction. Like I haven't sent out a quote for a weekly lawn care account for the whole time I've hired her. She does all of that. Now I give her tools. We use the service estimator that was designed by Caleb, and then he pushed us onto that. And now we kind of push that out to other owners, just one more tool to help people. Right. And so you just drop your pins around the property, generates the price that you set on the back end. And so we use that for our aerations, for sizing, for pricing, for aerations, for lawn care. He has it to where you can do it for even snow removal, pushing, salting, fencing. He's kind of building it all out all over. But knowing what you want the VA to do and having the tools there for them, they can, like, I could leave for 2 months and come back and she still got things running. Right. Yeah. So what she does for me is she keeps the company phone. So she receives and returns any missed calls, takes any calls that come in. She takes care of my inbox, my company email. We store cards on file for all of our residential accounts. And so at the end of each day, the guys come back to the shop, they'll sync on their tablets and their trucks. And then from her house, she'll be able to go through and automatically charge all of those accounts. And within 2 days, that money's so any kind of cash flow issues that we were having years ago disappeared, because starting the spring was always the roughest. You're paying a month's worth of labor before you send out your monthly invoices. And like, it wasn't working. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. I think probably what it was is hearing other guys talk about it online. But then one night, my wife and I, we were alone and we didn't want to cook. And so we ordered a pizza. And so they have an option, do you want to pay with a card now online when I place the order, or do you want to pay cash when they get there? And I was just like, wait a minute, if the pizza guy gets his money when he does his job, why can't the lawn guys do that too? So that's kind of the thought process of what pushed me into doing that. So she's responsible for all that, all the quotes that she can do that don't need my touch to them. She pushes those out. She coordinates with, I got a landscape crew lead and I got 2 different lawn care crews. She coordinates all of that stuff. Hey guys, we got a new yard, or hey guys, we had somebody cancel. She'll put all the different new yards in on the routes, stuff like that. That's pretty much all I mean, she does a lot for me. She goes over and above, of course. But that's all the main things like what I have her do, because that's something anybody can do. Like I said, as long as they have the right tools, as long as they possess that knowledge, now I can go out and I can worry about selling more tires or oil, or I can even go do more quotes, or I can start trying to sell salt, to municipalities and cold call companies and stuff like that, or take a vacation or just have an off day, whatever, because I know that the office stuff is being handled on a day-to-day basis. The day-to-day work is being handled by my guys, so long as they all show up, right? But it's gotten to where in the last 2 years with the VA, things roll so much more smoothly, because before I was torn in all sorts of different directions. Like, yeah, I still have to put out multiple fires a day, but overall, I don't have to put out near as many fires, again, because you put the right people in the right places.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that no matter what, at some point or another, that becomes the real stress test for your business is, can you walk away from this as the captain of the ship and still things happen without you? And if that can't happen, then you don't have a business, you have a job, right?
Right.
And it's very, very important that those things are able to keep moving without your direct involvement. So when it comes to the VA and managing the bidding and stuff like that, especially, was there any like training or, kind of onboarding, getting her learned up as far as what she needed to know to do the estimating for you? And I know you mentioned the easy estimator or quick estimator, the software for it. And I saw that on your website too. The pins that you drop, is that something that she does, or is it something the client does?
No, so that's what's so cool. So I'll handle that first, and we'll go back to your original question. So the service estimator, you drop the pins around what you want cut, right? So the cool part about that is any potential customer can hop on our website and give themselves their own instant quote, right? And then all that we got to do is confirm that they measure their property right, because sometimes those pins are difficult and they might have included something, or it might look to us like, hey, you didn't measure all the way back in your backyard, making sure you don't want that cut. Oh man, I forgot, I didn't. So either way, there's always going to be some sort of human interaction with that, but it is still pretty well automated. And even if they go through just the very first part, it still captures their info. So we can reach out the next day, be like, hey, we saw, because sometimes people just give up because it's frustrating. Yeah. And so we can just call them and be like, hey, we'll do this for you. So 3 things. The potential customer can get themselves their own instant quote. She can do that using the same process in the office, and everything is priced all the same. There's no overcharge, there's no undercharge, no risk of that, as long as it's measured right. And all these people that walk up to my guys, be like, hey, you got a business card, or hey, can you cut my grass? And the guys, they'll call. The process is they'll need to make contact with myself or Kristen, as long as time allows. Yes, that's fine. And as far as pricing, the guys, while they're standing there talking to the customer, they can drop the pins, confirm the measurements with them on their phone or the tablet, and then just go ahead. They got information. We get their card on file, and we're good to go.
That's awesome. Because a lot of times with that process, it's like, you're cutting the grass, the neighbor walks up, okay, well, we got to go do an estimate, and you don't cut their lawn until next week or whatever. Right. But if you can do that all on the spot, that's an extra, whatever, 50, $60 that you just made that day instantly. And now it's a recurring client, and that process is very effective. So with the pins, is it like a Google Maps integration or like something like that?
So it uses Google Maps, and you literally just drop your first pin and you outline. So the way that and there's multiple ways to do it again, but I start in the one corner and go around the whole property on the outside. Then I hit like the driveway. Okay. And then I go around the house and then connect that to my last pin to my first pin. And now just the turf area is measured, and we have the size, and everything is based on size anymore. So we automatically have our price. And I mean, it's down to, we don't even worry about whole or round numbers anymore. It's literally like the last one she told me about. She's like, because sometimes she'll be like, hey, did I measure this right? Yes, I'll check it. But it came out, it was like $51.27. I mean, it's down to the penny. You know what I mean? Like, so it's your pricing you set up in the back end, and I'll tell you this, for 20, I don't think he's changed the price. I think it's still 20 a month, but for $20 a month, that tool right there is worth its weight in gold. It's crazy. Back to what you were asking as far as training. No, I don't have, I didn't have policies, practices, or processes, or training in place when I onboarded her. So literally was 2-3 weeks of being together. Hey, this is what I do here. This is, she'll be like, well, I don't, so a lot of back and forth. Wasn't difficult, just, is time consuming, but it's worth that time to spend getting it set up with that person in the beginning. Cause like I said, it's been over 2 years now. And I don't even, when I was younger, when I was doing it all myself and I was the only one cutting grass, like I had a personal relationship with all of my customers. They'd come out and talk. That's cool. That's great for somebody that's doing it on the side as a hobby or whatever else. But a business, my guys can't stand around and talk to these guys 5 minutes a day at 25 yards. We're gonna need to start charging them more because they're talking to us more. So I do lose the human interaction, the personal connection doing it this way. But I don't think it's a bad enough situation to where it affects us badly. I think it's, risk versus reward. Right. And I think that we came out on top on doing it like this and just growing and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not now, and I have no intentions of ever replacing her. But if she is too busy, or if for whatever reason we do need to, I do have, and she's even helped me on this. We are starting to kind of document all of our different policies, processes, and stuff. So like even when we have a new guy come in with no experience for the grass crew, we have processes and training for them and stuff like that. There's a friend of mine. He's a former employee, but he has his own company now. And he actually talked to me. We're going to start maybe doing a couple little, I guess, a YouTube series, short videos of training. And so that way, when my guys come in, I go, hey, you need to watch all of these videos on my YouTube channel. And we can even utilize other people's YouTube videos. I mean, it's just the basics, you know what I mean? So that way, when they're coming in cold, they can at least kind of hit the ground running.
Exactly. And honestly, I've gone through kind of that same experience with my business where I'm fortunate to have people that are close to me that are helping me with some of the stuff that I'm doing. So I can sit with them, show them what I'm doing, and they understand the process. And going through that myself honestly gives me, okay, so when I was working with this person, this is the information they needed. And it's definitely helpful to have that in-person thing where they can kind of just shadow you and absorb all of the information like that, where they really get to see inside of your head and they know how you think, they know your decision-making process. But yes, getting those documents together, and so that people outside of your, social circle, or that can basically come and physically be in your office or whatever, that is super, super important. So
it's nice.
Absolutely. If you think back to like your first year in business, what do you recall being like the biggest struggle or challenge that you had to overcome to kind of make things work?
I would just say like the biggest struggle I had was, I had a huge fear of the unknown. How am I going to pay this guy? I think I was paying him $16 an hour for my first employee. I thought one guy would be able to do all my grass back then. And this is talking when I was, established, legitimate, 10, 11 years ago. It would have been, 2015, 2016. I don't know. It's been so long that it just kind of all blurs together, right? But the biggest struggles were, this is my baby, take care of it. You know what I mean? So like I'm paying this guy, he's driving around $30,000-$40,000 worth of trucks, trailers, equipment. Is he going to steal this stuff? Okay, he didn't steal it for a couple of weeks. We're good to go. Now, is he going to do more damage and keep breaking windows? Because that's going to cost a pretty penny. So I think, honestly, I mean, I know I use this a lot, but I had to fake it till you make it, even in the first year, more than ever, because never gone through it, didn't know what to expect. Sure, you can talk to guys online all the time. You can talk to other local owners, on the phone or in person even, and they're going to tell you the same thing. Man, you just got to do it. You just got to go for gold. You can't, analysis paralysis is a real thing, right? So like I'll sit there and like just overanalyze. Well, it would have been better for me to like think about it. Putting some thought into something isn't bad, but if it's slowing you down, then you need to just push that to the side and just get out and do it. If you fail, How many different ways for a light bulb to not work did it take Thomas Edison? You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same thing. You just got to keep going until you figure it out, and then remember. And that's what, back to the process, is now we're documenting those. So trying to remember that far back to, hey, where was I at? What was I doing? How do we handle this situation? Just to get everything documented. Labor back then wasn't a struggle because we only had 60 to 80 yards, and two guys handled that quicker than snot. And then I would send them to go do a few little landscape prunings, or depending on what time of the season it was, they can fill in their hours with some aeration in the spring and fall, leaves in the fall, pulling a lot of weeds and stuff in the summertime and stuff like that. So as we grew and our workload has, almost quadrupled since then, now the biggest bottleneck for me is labor. COVID didn't do us any favors. The government handouts didn't do us any favors. Everybody has their own opinions on all of that mess and everything, but I really do think that it put a lot of people in a bad spot, but also tainted a lot of people's thought process, where now they want something without having to do anything, right? So finding good people that are smiling, that are willing to learn, or they have the experience, or that's just going to stick around. So that all comes into play when I started trying to make this more of, instead of just a summer job, it is just lawn care, but instead of just being a summer job, I try to make it more of like a career. So like, we're the only lawn care company around that offers, we got dental in place, we have vision in place, don't have healthcare yet, but I have been working with a local doctor's office to work on that. But my guys get massages once a month. They get chiropractic adjustments once a month. Of course, the boots, shoes, hats, stuff like that. And then bonuses and then their weekly pay. We do have a company match retirement plan as well. So I tried doing all of this to make it more of a career. And now I got guys that have been with me 5-6 years. And then of course we have turnover. So we got a lot of new guys as well, but the guys that come in, then they find out they want to be here and they stay here, then they make it work. So.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest questions that I get with the consulting side of things, and also with some of the groups that I have, there's a lot of guys that are in there asking questions. One of the biggest things across the board is always, how do I attract and retain good employees, good labor? Right. And honestly, everything you just said is pretty much my default answer to that, where it's like, you can't be just the summer job lawn mowing guy. Like, having those things set up, the benefits, the chiropractic, the massage, the boots, it's all those little things where, like you said, you really need to build it as a career. And offer those other things that a lot of landscaping companies just don't. That is probably the easiest thing you can do as an employer to set yourself apart from, because it's the same thing. Like, cutting grass is cutting grass. You can go do that for any company anywhere in the United States, across the world, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? So why should they stay with you, and what do you offer as a business to them as the employee that other companies don't? And that's where you can really set yourself apart. And another thing is, obviously getting taken care of with the benefits, all of that stuff is super important. But also, like you said, trying to make it more of like a career. People want to be a part of a job or a business where they feel like there's room to grow, where there's something there for them, where they're not just going to be sitting there cutting grass for the rest of their lives, right? Like, they want to be bought in on a bigger vision, be a part of the thing in like some other more significant way at some point. So I know you said that you have a bunch of like crew members, and then you've got your landscape lead. What's kind of the difference between those two, and kind of how have you set up the structure within your company where you've got these kind of different levels and different roles within the business?
Well, there were two problems that I was trying to solve when I came up with this. And the one is, whenever you got multiple people in a truck trying to do the same job, not everybody works together, right? And so there was a lot of headbutting going on. Oh, well, I've been with the company longer, or the other guy would be like, oh, well, I've done this longer. Like, whatever, just here's the job. Here's how I'd like it done. Here's your tools. Here's the material. Get it done. And let's not argue, fight, bicker, and be childish. Sometimes I feel like an overpaid babysitter, honestly. Yeah. So them butting heads on landscape and the lawn care. Then I was like, okay, I gotta separate something and do something. So where the other thing besides butting heads was, I wanted I wanted somebody that I can call and hold responsible, right? Like we get a customer who says, hey, guys broke a window. They tried to hide it and drive off real fast. Okay, not the case. They broke a window. They're listening to music. They're not paying attention. They don't look at your window and glass. They didn't mean to break your glass. If they knew about it, they're supposed to, and I don't have issues with it. They'll take a picture, call me, text Kristen, whatever. Let us know. I've always wanted to let the customer know about the damage before they find out and think, because from their perspective, it looks like my guys broke their stuff and drove off trying to hide it or whatever. So when I'm heated, because I get heated quite often, when I get heated and I call these guys and like I'm not going to say that I'm a dick, but I am going to say that I do get hot. And so I'm one of those guys where I get hot and I'll pop off, and sometimes I'll even yell. Most of the time when I'm hot, I yell. And so then after whatever it was, I cool down, I'll call back and I'll have to apologize. So anyway, what I was trying to figure out with that part is who is the one person that, instead of calling and talking to all the different guys, I want one person to take responsibility. That's going to be part of the lead guy, right? And not just with the damages, but like making sure that we got oil in the stupid trucks, making sure that the blades are sharp and stuff like that. So like if we got a customer call and said, hey, your blades are very dull, ripping my grass, what's going on? Now, instead of calling and figuring out who dropped the ball, I call one guy, I'd be like, hey, dude, what happened with the blades not getting sharpened? Why are we, you know what I mean? And so it's not so much that they have like the power to hire and fire and do all sorts of other things. It's literally they're my first contact person. They are Kristen's first contact person. And then again, to get away from butting heads, so you got 2-3 guys on a landscape job and they all want to do the job differently. But now one guy gets to call the shots. And guess what? If he made the wrong decision, the other 2 guys are almost absolved, to where now I take this up with one person. You 2 did what you're supposed to do by following this guy. And so while he was in the wrong and you did it anyways, props to you guys for paying attention and listening and following the chain of command, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Yeah, they're absolutely, like, there needs to be some sort of structure within that where, there has to be that voice of authority. And whether it's you kind of going through that one guy and then that trickles to the rest of everybody else, like you said, you can't have 3-4 guys all trying to do it their own way, and just making sure that that one person is that guy is 100% important. And I think there's a lot of things in there that you just said where it's like, I'm linking back to the whole like labor issue where there's people that want to get paid more to do less.
Yeah.
When it comes to creating that opportunity where it's like, hey, if you want to move up in this company, if you want to be the lead, if you want to, kind of level up, so to speak, within this, business that we have, a lot of the things that you just mentioned are like the very basic responsibilities, the other extra things that someone could be doing to set themselves apart from, I just show up, I do what I'm supposed to do, and then I go home, right? Making sure that blades are sharp, oils are changed, dealing with, issues on the properties with customers. And that's something that in my experience, those types of people kind of show themselves. They start taking that initiative. They start doing those things, or at least inquiring or asking what more they can do. And so I think that's important too, to make clear with people where it's like, hey, there are other options and opportunities within this, but here's what's expected of you. I'm not just going to pay you more because you've been here for a long time. Like, if you want to take on more responsibility and take more off my plate, that is what justifies financial compensation or a change in, your title or role, whatever. So there's more that comes with it. So,
and I mean, not all of my guys are caught up with the whole, I have a position or I have a title. Now, I do have some guys that, they in the past, I'm not talking about current guys, but there have been times when like guys are just entitled, like, I've been here, so I'm the landscape lead. I had a new guy show up, and again, this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. The new guy shows up. He just introduced himself. I was late getting to the shop, and so I show up. I got 5 guys standing around the truck, just talking, chit-chatting, cutting up. Things are loaded. They did what they needed to do, but I told them, I said, hey, hang out for a minute, because I like to at least try to have one team meeting per week in the mornings. And normally I'll, end it with prayer. I'm a religious guy, and I don't try to force this on my guys or anything like that. But I also think that, like, if nothing else, it shows my guys that, hey, this guy cares enough. He said a prayer for our safety. This guy actually appreciates us, and not just another employee number. But anyways, I show up, and these guys have been with me for a while, just sitting around, cutting up. I'm like, you guys on the clock? They're like, well, yeah, we clocked in, we got loaded up, we're just waiting for you. I said, there was nothing else to do. I said, there's a new guy supposed to be here. They said, oh yeah, new guy introduced himself and went to the shop. We don't even know what he's doing. We go in the shop and this guy has organized almost all the tools that the other guys have left out. Okay. And he's got the whole shop swept up. He's like, hey, do you got a dustpan anywhere? I'm like, oh, like my mind was blown. Like, I'm just like, this guy is here to work, you know? So fast forward this situation a couple weeks and my landscape guys are just, they're all over the place. Right. And I don't claim to be the best boss or the best leader or whatever. And a lot of this falls back on me because my leadership abilities or skills or whatever have not fully developed at that point, and they're still not even at this point. But, you know, there has not been anything addressed or said up to this point. But anyways, when they start butting heads and this guy, the new guy, ended up on the landscape crew, I was like, hey, I'm gonna make this guy the landscape foreman, the crew lead. And the guys that have been there for, one guy was there several months, the other guy was there like 2 or 3 years. Thankfully, he pulled me to the side. He's like, hey, I don't agree with this. I don't like this. Like, why? Like, this guy's brand new. I don't want him to be my boss. I was like, he's not so much your boss. It's just that he comes here to work. He wants to be here. He's not just here just to get his paycheck and go home. He cares about the quality of the work. He cares about this business. And that's the things. That's why that. And so anyways, he's like, well, I'm not going to do it. Can you just put him on another crew or something? I said, I'll make him his own crew and I'll leave you guys alone. And that's fine. I said, but understand that when the work starts slowing down, the more efficient crew is going to keep more hours. Well, it'll come down to in the middle of summer, things slowed down, of course. And so I had to do something. And so it came down to, I was working this other crew with the new guy, at this point he wasn't new anymore. But anyways, the other two guys, because work was slowing down and they didn't want to do anything extra that I was offering them to do. We maintain lots of service roads, right of ways and stuff. And so we can always go pick up trash and we make great money picking up trash for this account. But like the guy, like, I'm not picking up trash, I'm like, you're not gonna go pick up trash for $25 an hour. Like what, like, I guess go home. I don't know what to tell you. Well, they ended up getting themselves into this whole rut. And finally they were just like, well, we're going to go work somewhere else. And at that point, of course, I'm like, all right, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. I appreciated them being here. I appreciated the money that they made me and that they made for themselves. But it come down to the other crew cared more. They did more. They showed up with a smile on their face, everything like that.
Absolutely. And that's another thing too, where as the business owner, you at some point or another, a lot of your responsibility starts to become managing people, not managing the business, and being kind of that cultivator of the culture of the business itself and weeding out the bad apples. Because like you said, you got a crew of 5 or 6 guys. It takes one dude who's doing more to bring the level of everyone else's, motivation and what they feel like the standards are up. But it also only takes one guy who's doing less, complaining, bitching, moaning, to bring everybody else's vibe down too. So
and everybody's looking around back, well, if he's getting away with it, I'm going to get away with it.
Exactly. So keeping the scales balanced and making sure that the vibes are good, the energy is good, and that the right people are in the right places doing the right things. It's kind of like you start to have to think about that kind of stuff more too. Absolutely.
Yep. Now there are different ways to play that though, because I did, and not long ago, I actually had one of my guys been around for years. He's excellent at what he does. He can cut grass like no other. Okay. He was having struggles outside of work. We all do. I understand that. No problem there. But then when he started allowing that to impact his work and his partners and stuff like that, we had to have a conversation. And that conversation ended with him no longer being employed. It was a mostly mutual decision on both of our parts. And so when that was gone, I noticed all the other guys kind of perk back up like, all right, cool. So now their moods are better. Now they're doing more. They're more efficient, everything else. Well, then over the course of a week or two, this guy was talking to me. He's like, hey, I do really enjoy working for you. I am sorry. He's like, I would like to improve. I would like to be back with you guys. I was like, that's fine, but you got to understand, like, this is part of it as well. So like, I don't want you coming in here. And so, and also I'm not going to name him, but buddy, just know that I love you and I'm not going to name you, but I want to know that I'm proud of you as well. So anyway, sometimes the guys will, tune in and watch different things and they'll ask me questions like, well, what was that story about? Anyway, this guy guy come back, he hit the ground running, he was doing great, and it actually improved the other guys more than what they were. And so now things are just hunky-dory and groovy. So sometimes it takes, and I'm not saying you got to mess with somebody's money or take away their job or like threaten them or anything else, but sometimes it does take some sort of a change, a big enough change to where it causes another change in them, like one action for a reaction, and then everything can move forward even better and everything like that. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes you got to take action, make those things happen. And, if you just let things be, they'll just degrade to the lowest level of whoever.
Well, and that's it. I don't know who said it, but to enact actual change, you have to make yourself uncomfortable, because when you're comfortable, you're not going to change anything, because why change anything? Because you're comfortable.
Yeah. And change is hard. So there needs to be a good reason to do it in the first place.
Yes.
So what are your favorite and least favorite parts of running businesses?
Favorite part is meeting people, talking to people. I got the gift of gab. I come by it honestly. My dad, my grandpa, we're like, I'll sit here with you all day and talk about anything under the sun. I just like to talk. I like connecting with people, networking. I like making connections, stuff like that. So that's probably my favorite part is like, when I say the people, I don't mean like the Karens, because you're always going to have that bad apple stuff like that. But overall, in general, I would say the people, the employees, the customers, the vendors, the subcontractors, all of it. I think probably my least favorite is I'm the least favorite I'm going to put on myself, because I am the owner and I do allow this. But my least favorite is like the lates, the unreliability, the tolerance of the bad apple employees, stuff like that. So if I can improve on that, that would improve, the company culture, the team morale, whatever. And then we can just keep moving forward. I'm working on trying to get the guys, mainly the landscape guys, because grass is grass. It's pretty well all standard, but trying to get these guys to understand like, hey, I'm really not a greedy guy. Like I don't need anything more than what I have. I am comfortable with what I have and how we are, but we could be better. There's a lot of room for improvement. So I'm trying to get these guys to understand, hey, you guys get these jobs done faster. You guys can get performance bonuses a lot more. You guys can actually get better raises because you guys are making the company more money. And that means that you can now make more money. So trying to, I guess, in a nutshell, what I don't like is I don't like the negatives of the managing people and employees and stuff like that. If I could figure out a better way to be a better leader, captain, owner, boss, whatever, if I could do that in a better way to manage my team better, that would solve a lot of those issues from what's sucking. You got a small little leak over here, another small little leak over here. And before you know it, your boat's about half underwater, and now you literally just got to bail yourself out by any means necessary. And when you do that, are you going to go back and repeat the same things to where you're going to have to keep bailing yourself out? So right. I would say for both answers, what I like, what I don't like, people is the answer for both of them in their own each different regards.
Absolutely. When it comes to dealing with people, more so on the client side, maybe less internally within the business, do you have any horror stories dealing with, Karens and people of the like?
So glad you asked this. So I have one particular story that I love sharing to anybody that will listen to this story. And I'll try to keep it short because, like I said, I got the gift of gab. So we started doing Christmas lights. This will be our 4th or 5th year going into this winter. Okay. My very first winter. I wasn't planning on doing it. We were in Branson, Missouri for vacation with the family. And that's a 5-hour road trip back home. Okay. So the whole time while we're on vacation, my wife was like, "What are you doing on your phone? Why are you on your phone so much?" Which is pretty standard for anywhere I'm at anyways, but especially on vacation. But what I was doing and why I was so engrossed in this is I was exploring Christmas lights and adding that to our company. And so, of course, I'm looking at all the different Facebook groups. I'm YouTubing everything. I'm looking at all the pricing, the suppliers, and all this stuff. And so I told her, I said, "Well, I think I kind of want to offer Christmas lights this year." She's like, "No." She's like, "It's literally also the important part here. This was Halloween. I don't know if I mentioned that part." So Halloween of that year, okay, 5-hour road trip home. I had planned out my Christmas light part of my business and made my first marketing post. Before we got home, I had 6 people already committed to Christmas lights. So I'm amped up and pumped. She's like, there's no way people are, because when we started at $8 a foot, right? In our area, that's, I price it out. I don't ever want to be low. I like being either middle or I like being high, not unfairly high, but you see what I'm saying? Better profit margins. She's like, there's nobody in our area that's going to pay $8 a foot for you to put up Christmas lights. I said, I don't know. I said, I think so. So anyway, moving forward, after I was back, we get the ball rolling and everything like this. Our very first year, I get a phone call from a family who is very prominent in our area. Like if they were the top 5 most wealthy families in our area, they were going to be one of those 5. Okay. And I was excited. I was super pumped. I'm like, dude, they got an amazing, huge, big, gorgeous house. And so I go through the estimate, I get the approval, I collect the deposit. Let me back up. I don't collect the deposit. She had to reschedule or something when I was going over there to get the deposit. And she said, well, when you guys come do the job, I'll have somebody here. They'll give you the money. Oh, okay, that's fine. As long, I don't ever want to get shafted. I've been shafted a couple times before. So we go through and we pull up and we have to use a lift because they have a huge, huge, huge gable up top, right? And so we use the lift and this guy comes out as we're getting the lift set up and he's like, he's got an envelope of cash. He's like, hey, he said, this is for you. I said, all right, thanks. And I put it in my truck and I keep working. He comes back out an hour later. We're not quite, we're set up and we're getting started. He's like, hey, where's that envelope of cash at? And I'm like, I put it in my truck. Why? He's like, well, apparently I wasn't supposed to give that to you till the job was done. I apologize. I was like, well, I said, do you know how much was in there? Because you were supposed to give me the deposit amount, but if you've given me the full amount, then if you want to get that envelope, it's right. I'm up top, second story on a lift, right? Got a couple ground guys going around. They're not paying attention. I said, if you got the whole amount in there, you're welcome to go get half of that out, leave the deposit in the, and so he's like, all right. He gets in the truck. He takes the whole envelope. And I said, you leave the rest in there? He's like, no, she asked that I get it all back. And I'm at this point, I'm like, hey, I know who the family is. They're, I'm not going to have any issues. Maybe they're a little wacky, a little wonky, whatever. So I'm a little irritated, but it is what it is. And so we get the job finished and he has already left. He's gone. So I can't get my payment. I don't have my deposit. He took it back and he left without leaving it or giving it. So I call her. She's like, oh, well, I'll be home in about an hour. So I sent my guys on there and I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I'm not playing games. This is my money. The job is done. I'm going to stay here. And so I told her, I said, I'll stay here till you get, she's like, you don't need to hang out there. It might be a little bit. I said, no, that's fine. I said, we didn't get the deposit. He took all the money back. I said, I'm going to just sit here in the driveway until somebody's home and I can get paid and move on. And she kept giving me these excuses. And so finally I told her, I said, look, I want you to understand. I'm not leaving here with this lift until I'm paid in full, because if I'm not going to be paid right now, what you agreed to, and you signed a legal document stating all of my policies, then I'm going to use this lift and I'm going to take your lights back down. She's like, well, don't do that. Don't do that. Let me call my husband real fast. Anyway, long story short, her husband was mad at her for setting up this job with the amount of the cost that it was. And he called the employee back and said, go get my money back, because she's the one that big old miscommunication, whatever, but not my fault, Yeah. So she finally shows up, and at this point, I had gone down the road. There was I forget what I had. I was like 3 miles away, and my house is in between where I got to drive past my house. She calls me. She said, hey, she's like, my husband's home. He's happy. We're ready to pay you. So that's all it was, is he wanted to make sure he was happy before he paid me. I kind of understand that, but when you agree to it. So anyways, that aside, I'm like, okay, cool. She's like, she's like, I don't have the exact amount. She's like, I'm going to need a $20 bill for change because of how much, what she was paying in the denomination of cash. Right. And I was and my thought was $20, really? Like, you have a helicopter pad in your backyard and you're like, whatever. At this point, I'm so far fed up with this customer and this account. I'm just done, man. So I stopped by my house. because I remembered that, my wife had gotten the mail before, and she had mentioned that we had it was, Christmas time, of course. And so she mentioned that we had a coupon book for Burger King. They always mail you out, lots of coupons in this nice little fancy package thing. And so I stopped by and I grabbed that, and I grabbed the $20 bill for change. And she's like, "Where are you taking that?" I said, "I found somebody that needs it more than I do." And so I took that over to her house, knocked on the door, gave her the $20 bill. She's like, she literally said, "Do you have that $20 bill to make the change?" She wasn't going to give me her money until I gave her that $20. I was blown away, man. And so I said, "Yeah, here it is." So she took that, she counted out the money, gave me my money, and it was the right exact amount. No big deal. And then out of my pocket, I pulled this, the coupons, the booklet of coupons out, and I gave it to her. She just kind of looked at it. She took it. She looked at it and looked at me. I said, "We got those in the mail today, and I just figured probably you guys could use them a whole lot more than what we can use them." Dude, her face went immediately red, didn't say a word. And I said, "Thanks again." And I walked out the door and shut the door behind me. It was like that right there made the whole shenanigans worth it. Just, she's gonna throw it away. Anyway, she didn't hire us back the next year, but I would have taken her anyhow. You know what I mean? Like, she was just that big of a. So that right there is like one of my favorite stories to share, because like you never know, like just because you think that like. And here's the thing, just because I assume that they're wealthy because of everything, because of who they are, because of knowing that family name around here forever, maybe they were going through a hard time. I don't know. Could I have shown a little bit more grace and not been as big of a dick or a troll? Absolutely. Was it worth it? Did I enjoy it? Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
and like I said, we didn't get that job the next year. I didn't want to reach out. I didn't want to say anything or have it back. I just didn't want to deal with her. But it was funny because the next year, one of my buddies, another owner that does lights, he called and said, "Hey, didn't you do this house last year?" I said, "Yeah." So I told him the story. He's like, "You did not." I said, "I absolutely did." I said, "I wonder if she ever used them or if she threw them away." Yeah. So anyway, she's like, "Well, if you've already," because we used the custom cut, C9 12-inch spacing, the SPT2 wire, right? And so he's like, "Well, you already got the whole house cut." He's like, "If you got a mark, can I just buy that from you? Because you're not going to be using them." I said, "Absolutely." So I sold him the material half price. So I still made good money on this whole thing. And so anyways, she never will know or has known, but it's hilarious knowing that my lights are still getting put up on her house year after year.
That's awesome.
It was pretty funny.
You definitely came out on top on that.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, it couldn't have worked out any better.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. So with everything that you've got going on right now, I'm sure there's a lot of problems, things that just come up, fires to be put out. If I could snap my fingers and solve any problem for any of your businesses right now, what would it be and why?
I honestly, I really don't know. Like, and it's not because we don't have problems or don't have fires. I just don't know which one I would pick the most, because I think in my mind, all the ones that come to my mind, they're all kind of equal, if that makes sense. But honestly, I would probably say, I guess I'm just going to go back to the employees, the labor. Labor is the biggest bottleneck of everything. So, and again, I'm not blaming my employees. I'm not blaming them or even the potentials of the new guys or the old guys. I accept the blame for myself. So I guess if you could snap your fingers and make me a better, team leader, a better owner, a better boss, I think probably that. And to that end, I have been trying to work on myself as far as, I just graduated and finished the whole Immortal Man, the Immortal Brotherhood. Eric Rogers is his name, and he has done a fantastic job building a program for, Christian business owner men. Okay. So he hits on all the different things, physical fitness, your diet, businesses, God, religion, all of this. So going through that really kind of opened my eyes and helped me. I learned quite a bit from this, like how to become how to level up, right? As a father, husband, business owner, stuff like that. I've done a few other like little classes, courses. I did one a year ago that it was mostly beneficial. It was Garrett J. White, I forget what he calls his. He has a program, kind of the same thing. And then just books and stuff like that, just trying like self-help. My favorite book of all time so far, business wise, and it doesn't have anything to do with employees, is the Profit First book by Mike Michalowicz. That right there opened the doors. Like, I was just mind blown. And my wife makes fun of me for having 13 different company bank accounts, but man, managing money now is so much smoother and easier. But no, if you're going to snap your fingers and fix something for me, I would say probably make me a better coach, mentor, owner, whatever.
Yeah, that's a really interesting and really good answer. I like that a lot. I forget where I saw it, but a bunch of quotes that I've seen around that I think are very relevant to that. It's like your business is a direct reflection of you and your capacity as a business owner and as a person.
Yes.
So the level that you're willing to develop yourself to is going to reflect the level that your businesses rise to. And another one that I saw that I really like is you don't have a problem with your business. You have a personal problem manifesting in your business. Where, to relate that back to what you were just saying, like, there's a lot of things that you as a person, the way that you're thinking, the way that you're handling situations, all of those things indirectly might be creating some of the issues that are happening inside of your business and inside of that world. So
absolutely.
I'm big on the self-development thing too. And I think it's very important, especially, as business owners, because it's like, dude, like I said, the business is a direct reflection of you and of your capacity as a person. So I think that the more you grow as a person, absolutely, you will see that reflect in your business as well.
Easily.
100%. Any other books? Do you read a lot?
I don't read a lot. I used to read a lot. I actually probably read the most books out of anybody back in high school. My best friend back then was a librarian. I literally, any chance I got, I was in the library. I got in trouble. The only time I got in trouble in classes in high school was because I was not paying attention to the teacher because I was reading my book. I loved reading books. And then, of course, college, didn't read any books, and then from there just broke my habit. So no, I don't. I might read one book, maybe one or two books every 6 months, if that. So like the E-Myth, that's a good one. Profit First, that's probably my biggest. Everybody's like, like you're saying on the Facebook groups, everybody's asking all these same redundant questions without providing variables so we can actually answer and help them. Is, how do you guys price grass, or how do you guys price landscape? Like, Mike Michalowicz and his Profit First book isn't for pricing landscape and grass, but if you reverse engineer his process, the Profit First method, you can use that to price things accurately. You need to have 15% from that job for the taxes. You need 5% from that job for profit. You know that you're going to need another 15% for the owner's pay part of it. You need the rest of that for whatever your incidentals are or anything, or especially for like the OPEX account, operating expenses. So if you look at this job and you're like, I think I'm a little low, well, just back your way into that using this Profit First method. Like, hey, I'm charging $1,000. $150 goes to Uncle Sam right away. $50 goes, whatever the percentages are. If I'm off on my math, I blame the school district here, but you get the point. You know what I mean? Like, then when you're done at the end, you're like, well, I don't have enough left over. I can't pay myself, or maybe I can't afford all the materials. Okay, well, now right there. And it took a couple minutes to do this. You already know you need to charge a couple $100 more on this. So it's more of like, in school when you had to like show your work or you had to prove your answers or anything like that, using that method is a surefire way to make sure that you're at least better off on your pricing. It's not, again, I'm not saying that it is for pricing, but I'm just saying I've actually had to use this on bigger landscape jobs when, like, I'll come up with my quote how I normally do, and I'm talking like a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 job. Well, then, assuming I've done this job, we had no extra expenses, we had no damages, nothing else wrong, no changes to the work order, anything like that. I will take that full amount for that job before we've even started, and I will put that through the different percentages on Profit First. And if I'm happy with those numbers, I'll send that estimate, and it's come down to a couple times I've actually done that. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm actually a little bit lower than what I want to be. I would have been profitable, but not as profitable.
Right. And yeah, I totally agree. A lot of guys that are in the Facebook groups that are asking, what would you do for this? What would you charge for that? Like you're asking the wrong question, right? Like somebody in that group might be close enough to your area where they could give you a price that's
Right.
relative or helpful, but teaching you how or giving you a number so that you can go bid that one job is not helping you in the long run at all. Because what are you going to do? Post every time you get a job? Like,
A lot of those guys do, and that's the sad thing.
yeah, but there
That's
needs to
back
be
to the
method.
whole, the whole parable of, feed a man a fish he can eat for a day, teach a man how to fish and he can eat for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So doing that and like, whether that's sharing on Facebook groups or would people pay for coaches, consultants, whatever. I mean, that right there, they're honestly, somebody, it could be us. I'm down for it if you are. We need to put together, the beginner's guide to lawn care, and have that part in there with pricing and stuff like that. Just here's the things that you have to have. Here's the things that you probably will want. Here's what you're going to need to do for processes, policies, all this stuff. Pricing, lawn care has so much competition because it's such a low point of monetary entry into it. You could literally start with a $50 push mower and a $50 trimmer and work your way up from there, right? Well, even doing it like that, you're not paying taxes, you don't have insurance, you're not going to have the overhead, you're going to feel like you're making a lot of money, and you are making pretty decent money. But when you damage something, how much money are you going to have left? Or if you start out and you do start like most people don't start, you do start off immediately with insurance, work comp, all that kind of stuff. Now you're like, well, how does anybody make any money at this? Because you didn't put the effort into finding you got to know your numbers. You got to find your numbers. You got to know your numbers. You have to double check your numbers all the time. And I don't do the best job at that myself, but I'm always within an acceptable range for the most part until I do get to where I'd sit down and like look back over the last couple of months, be like, oh man, we could have done a lot better here. Or, hey, that was a really good last quarter,
Yep. 100%. So another thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the growing of your businesses, specifically through acquiring other companies or
Sure.
getting, customer lists or, kind of just swallowing up other smaller businesses to build yours up.
Yep.
I talk a lot about how to market, how to put yourself out there and how to grow your business organically. But one thing that I've never really delved too much into is acquisition and kind of what that process looks like, because that's, as far as growing your business, if it's financially viable for you, it's one of the quickest ways to do it.
Yes.
So assuming that
So
you have the infrastructure and the employees to handle a bunch more work all at once on the back end of it, it can be a really effective
yep.
strategy to grow. So can you talk a little bit about your experience doing that and kind of from start to finish? I got a bunch of
Yep.
other small questions in between, but
Oh,
that
that's
process.
fine. So I'd like to, I guess, start my answer with business is done when two people are agreeable to the terms, right? And so that's how I've kind of gone into every single acquisition is, everyone that I've purchased and bought out over the last couple of years have been all about the same, but there's not one standard way to do it. It depends on the size of their company, what's their gross, what's their profit margins, what's their expenses and all this other stuff. What's the route look like? That's my biggest thing is we are such a dense route. We have 250 to 300 properties, weekly properties, all within, I would say, a 5 to 6 mile radius. Now, we do have a couple that are further out, big commercials or whatever, but we also built a full route out there and a full route back, so it makes sense, right? But I'd say 90% of everything is within 5 to 6 miles of our shop. But anyways, so the first time that I ever bought somebody out, that was a really close friend of mine. We both were doing the same thing side by side, helping each other out. And he got busier with work. He's got a really good job. He's like, hey, I don't want to give up my job, but I can't keep on top of this. Do you want to buy me out? I said, okay, sure. What's that look like? Of course, I've never done this. And I'm new to the business because this was a long time ago. He's like, honestly, just give me whatever you think is fair. So we figured it up. That one I ended up with a few pieces of equipment. I retained his company name, registered through the state, stuff like that. He had maybe a basic Facebook business page, and then I think 40 to 50 customers. And so what we came up with was I was going to pay him for 2 cuts worth for each customer, and then a third cut's worth if those customers would sign a service agreement with us, right? And so, and the reason that my thought process is my service agreements, they require a 30-day notification to cancel, 30 days to close if you sell your house, or also 30 days so it's not sticker shock to us if we have a lot of people drop. Right. But also so our guys, like, somebody cancels this morning and their house was supposed to be cut today. If we don't get to the guys in time, they're going to cut that, and the customer's not going to want to pay. But if they go into this agreement knowing that they're obligated for 30 days of service with us, that's 30 days. So to pay that extra, if they sign my agreement after on the second or third week, I've now cut them for 2 weeks plus 4 more in the future. So that's 6 weeks that I get to charge for, and I've only paid for 3 of those. So I'm still going to come out ahead. It's not going to be very profitable, but I didn't lose anything. Right. And he was happy. Actually, I did buy a truck from him, and we actually still run that truck to this day. I forgot about that truck, but that was the first one. And that was, like I said, that I wasn't looking, I wasn't, I didn't really need to, but I was able to. It was more so he helped me, I helped him. The next one was another guy that was moving. He contacted me kind of out of the blue. Was like, hey man, he's like, I see you all over. He's like, if I'm going to leave my customer somebody, I want somebody that is going to be reputable, somebody that they can trust, stuff like that. So let's talk about, you buy me out. And same thing with him. I ended up with a couple pieces of equipment, his social media, the names registered and everything. Like everything's DBAs underneath. So like we got the parent company and then all these other companies underneath. And then his Google page, and on everybody that I've bought out, I think it's, 6, 7, or 8 of them over the last couple of years. I've always left all their phone numbers, websites, and social media pages active. And like, while I don't post or utilize those as often, in my mind, it's a marketing ploy. People will Google for lawn care in our area. And of the 10 companies that pop up in the beginning, I own 5 of them. Not trying to be shady, not trying, you know what I'm saying? Like anybody that calls from them or emails that company, email, whatever, will always tell me, hey, just so you're aware, we are owned by On My Own Time Lawn Care, but also you can double check that company. We're the highest, most rated, reviewed in the area anyways. So it just kind of kept progressing like that. And so that guy, I think I ended up with 30 or 40 accounts from him. And of course, not everybody stays, and we tell everybody. And after the first or second time of doing this, I actually kind of thought about it. And so what I started doing from that point forward is I tell the guy, hey, don't say anything to your customers. If this is what we're going to do, we'll hash out the deal. Don't say anything yet. And then what I do is I like to send my guys out for at least 2 weeks to cut and we'll keep the money because we're doing the work, and he's cool with that. And then we can then send an email or call, or I'll stop by and, meet them myself. Be like, hey, actually, it's been my company cutting your grass for the last 2 weeks. So if you're happy, you know what we have, so now it's a lot less likely that they're going to drop us. And I wasted that 2 cuts worth of money, right? Because there is that chance, that risk that I can't recoup that. And so, and at that point, I'd be like, if you'd like to stay on, permanently, you can sign our service agreement. And then I go over, cancellation, all that jazz. And so it started working out to where it seemed like the last several acquisitions were smoother than the first several, is in regards to how many customers we lost or whatever else. There was 2 companies that we had to buy out in full, everything, and again, register with the state and everything, because they had commercial contracts. And so we called that account. We said, hey, just to let you know, this company was purchased by this company legally, and so the contract is still in force. One of the accounts was like, this is awesome, this is great, we know of your company, so we're happy, we're thrilled, keep going. As the other company's like, well, no, that's not how this works, we didn't hire you, we're going to hire somebody else. And I was like, is there somebody that I can set up a meeting with so we can go over all this? So I'm happy to explain this so we can cause less issues. And so, because it was one of the managers. Well, when I talked to the owner, explained the owner and showed everything to her, she's like, well, we really don't even have an option, but also meeting and talking to you, I think we're probably going to like you more than the last company, than the company you bought out. And that stood true. She's one of our biggest commercial customers, and that was 5 or 6 years ago. So anymore, my standard go-to, when people, hey, do you want to buy me out? I'm not rich. I'm not wealthy. I'm not going to buy out big companies. I'm not going to buy out a lot of people. As the opportunities present themselves, if I'm able to pivot and spend the money and do that, then that's fine. There was one company that we bought out that it was another good friend of mine. He wanted to get into just concrete. He was doing grass, landscape, and concrete, but he wanted just concrete. And so what it was is I was tapped on manpower, and I also, this was before profit first, so of course managing my money was terrible back then. And I told him, I said, dude, I need it actually. I really do need this, but I don't have any money to come off of to like just give you the money and buy. He said, well, why don't you just work it off for pay? He's like, it's not that I need the money. I just don't want the responsibility, and I don't want to leave all these people hanging. And it was for like 80 or 90 customers. And so what we worked out was I actually went out myself, and like, I don't really get out in the field very much with the guys. It's kind of a joke, like, oh, boss has dusted off his work boots, And so I actually went out for the very first week with one of his employees to see all the accounts, all the different things and everything. And then the next 2 weeks I sent my crews to go do it. And again, we're collecting the money, I think less 10%, because he's got taxes that he's, being taxed and everything else. And so at the end, we just ended up taking, I think, 6 weeks to pay him the 3 weeks after the 2 weeks that we'd already done cutting. So he was very kind in allowing us to, like, I guess, payment plan or whatever, and make that work. So again, I kind of do stick to the 2 cuts worth for the accounts. Don't typically need the trucks, trailers, or equipment unless I have to, or they're smaller. Or if it's a great deal, then sure, yes. I'll literally buy anything, and I'll literally sell anything. Everything I have has a sticker, has a price tag, except for my wife and my kids, right?
Yeah.
Again, back to the whole business is done when 2 people are agreeable to the terms. So I wouldn't consider myself a pro or a seasoned vet at buying out or acquiring other companies and stuff, but I've been through it enough to where, and I know what my tolerances are. I had one guy a year or 2 ago. He called, he said, hey, he's like, I'm ready to sell out. I'm ready to retire. I want to sell out. I said, okay, cool. I said, he's like, well, what do you normally do, or how much do you pay? And I was like, well, before I talk to him and tell him my thought process, he had mentioned, he was like, yeah, he's like, I was kind of hoping to, I thought I was going to ask around $100,000, but, honestly, if it's you, I'd be happy. I'd take 60 grand for it. And he didn't quite have 100 customers, and he also wanted his equipment and stuff like that. And I said, well, I can't pay that amount. Like, I don't have that amount. I can't pay that. I said, also, what I've done in the past is I've done 2 cuts worth, and I explained the whole thing. He's like, oh no. He's like, I can't do that. I can't do that. He's like, I spent too much time building this up. I said, well, do you have a contracts with your customers? Now I know that I can retain them. It'd be a little bit easier of a pill to swallow and take the risk. I said, no, I don't have any. Well, you don't have a service agreement or contracts. You want me to just give you, $60,000 on a whim that I might end up with your customers? It wasn't a good fit. So we didn't do that. Well, so he never did find a buyer, never did find the money that he was wanting to get for. And so what he ended up doing a month or 2 later is he called me and 3 other local guys, and he said, I'm tired of messing with this. I'm selling. I got somebody that will buy my equipment and like 10 of my accounts, and that's all that they want. And then I'm going to divvy up all the rest of my accounts to you and the other 3 guys, and you guys just have them. If you want to pay me money. So what I did was, the accounts that he chose to give me, I did go ahead and give him the 2 cuts worth. Because I'm not going to I don't need to take something for nothing. I'll still give him what I was going to give him. Well, the guy that bought all the equipment and took those 10 special accounts, the highest, closest ones or whatever, he ended up just dropping the ball terribly. And so we actually had those people call our company trying to hire us. And I called this guy. I said, hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but I just want to let you know we got a lot of phone calls. He said, yeah, he's like, I'm pretty well just done. He's like, you want to just buy all this stuff? So I ended up buying the stuff from him, from the other guy, for like pennies on the dollar. He was in a very bad spot and wasn't trying to take advantage of him, but I gave him what he asked for. I was happy. He was happy. The guy who owned the company originally, he didn't care, So we ended up with about 30 different customers plus the equipment for a fraction of the cost. Again, kind of just sticking to my policies, sticking to my guns. Doesn't always work out like that, but I think that again, when we finally came to an agreement, that's when we were able to make the business deal happen.
Right on. So if there's any difference between when a client or when a business owner is coming to you trying to sell their business, or have you ever gone out and sought out another company like, I want to acquire something, what's on the market? Or is it like, is there any experience with
I've never gone
you?
I've never gone hunting to purchase or acquire somebody. Everything has ever been they approach me or they'll make a post. Like I had one that was again, most of all these guys have been pretty good friends of mine. It's not, there's only been like 2 strangers that I've bought out. But the one guy, he just made a post, said, "Hey, I can't physically do this anymore. What are my options? Who all has sold? Who all is willing to buy? What can I, how can I get the most money for what I've poured years of my life into?" And so I just sent him a message, just like, "Hey man, just let you know, I don't pay top dollar. I might not be a great option, but this is what I've done in the past just to get you," because he had no idea, like no starting point whatsoever. I was just giving him insight. And I did tell him, I said, "Hey, if any of this sounds agreeable, I'm happy to work it out with you, but I'm not intentionally trying to lowball your company." Like, right. He had probably around 100 customers as well. Seems like most of the guys around here hover between 150 and 100 is kind of typical, I guess. And so he's like, "All right." He's like, "Well, thanks very much." And, he's like, I'm talking to a couple other guys that are interested. And it took probably a week or two. And he calls me back. He says, "Man," he's like, "let's just do it your way. I can't figure out anything with anybody else. This is simple. I know I'm not going to get the most amount of money if I was to wait," but he's like, "I can't wait. These people's grass haven't been cut in 2 weeks." I'm like, "Holy crap." I say, "You should have told me that in the beginning. Like, we can go cut stuff for you, even if we don't buy you out, and you just pay us, you know what I mean, just as a subcontractor." Yeah. So I sent my guys immediately out to get his stuff caught up. And we retained, I'd say, all but 3 of those customers of that whole list. So that worked out pretty well. It took them just a little while to get around to it, because I'm the same way. I'm always like, "Oh yeah, I'd sell anything. I'd sell everything." Somebody offers me a magic number for my company and all my stuff. Yeah, I'll sell. But like in my mind right now, with the position I'm in, with where I'm at in life, it would take north of 500 to buy me out. I know what I have. Don't lowball me. I know what I got. Yeah. So like I know what it's capable of. But then showing that to a buyer, letting them go through the books. Good luck, because mine suck. But it's all, I have a price, a value for what's attached to my company. Anybody else, of course, is going to have a much lower price and value anyway. So if somebody big were to ever, approach me and be like, "Hey man, would you take 300,000 to sell your company?" If I'm still happy and good and things are groovy, no, not a chance. Thank you. If I'm in a tight spot and, I'm behind on payments, or, stroke of bad luck and we got a lot of things to catch up on, yeah, that actually might sound pretty good, but I don't currently plan on selling. What I'd like to do is I have got about 10 more years until my son would be old enough, out of high school, and old enough to where he could probably, if he wanted to, step in and then kind of take over, if you will. I have thought, especially when you have employee issues or damages, or you got the end of the season burnout. "Hey, who wants to buy me out? I'm ready to sell," impulsive, emotional decisions, stuff like that. Yeah. But like, even at that, it's still just, it would always be worth it to keep this around, because it's such steady, good enough money that allows me to do all the rest of my other little ventures and side businesses and stuff like that. Like, it just allows me too much freedom. If I was smaller, it'd be way easier to sell out for a higher or a lower price. But at this point, it's almost automatic. I'm not saying that everything runs perfectly without me. I still have a lot day-to-day stuff with everybody and stuff like that. I'd like to get away from that, but we would have to grow a little bit more for me to have somebody to do what I do and be able to compensate them fairly for it. So, no, I've never actively sought out just random people wanting to sell. It's always been, I see somebody make a post or somebody tells me about it, or, or they approach me, just because I think after I did 4 or 5, because we'd always post about it, like, always a respectful post, not like, hey, this dude failed, so we bought him out. No, it was like, hey, congrats, like for Wagner Lawn Care is, congrats to Corey for wising up and realizing he wants to focus on what he enjoys. And we appreciate his trust in allowing us to continue his company as well, merging it with ours. And so we had a lot of great response from that and everything. And so 2 things, one, we're announcing that we now own Wagner Lawn Care, but also we tagged his new DM&W concrete so people could understand, like, hey, Corey's still around. He's still doing work. He just wants to do your concrete work. So here's his marketing stuff so you can contact him, So I don't know, maybe one of these days there'll be a bigger outfit from St. Louis that kind of looks out here and be like, hey, this guy's kind of got something going on. Let's make him an offer. And maybe I will be out of it, but I don't have any current intentions of doing anything drastically different for the meantime.
Okay. When it comes to buying and selling, obviously it's a little bit different, but let's say you were to sell, what are some of the things that you'd be doing to prepare your company so that you could get like the biggest exit possible?
Okay, don't hold this against me. Don't judge me. Okay. But I think taxes, the books, and the money movement, I think is a big thing. And I wouldn't do it to be dishonest or shady, but I would definitely do it differently than what I've been doing things the past couple of years, because honestly, personal, and again, not doing this to brag, but just so you understand why I'm saying this. We've been very blessed over the last several years. We have almost zero debt. Our rentals pay for themselves plus ours. We don't, the company had, now I do finance half of my new machines, and we cycle through new machines every 2 years for warranty purposes. And I didn't even get into this, but actually I'm actually a Skag dealer for Skag mowers. So I sell myself mowers, at a small percentage over cost for the dealership. So like again, leveraging partnerships, stuff like that to help your business. But what I'm saying that for is I would just be able to look at how I can show the most amount of money coming in, the most amount of profit staying in, as opposed to what we do now is minimize our tax liability, responsibility, right? So if I did everything possible to show as much profit. Now, the way how that hurts us is if, we had a commercial property come up for sale that would have been perfect. We would have loved that. Went to the bank, and even though the banker is a close personal friend of mine and he knows what's going on, and again, not that we're doing anything illegal, but there are ways to shift and move and do things differently. And so he's like, dude, the way you have things now, your debt to income is terrible. Like I'll make you this loan if it was up to me, but like I have to answer to the board at the bank, and they would shoot me based off of this. Now understand that they don't know you. They don't understand that you have a lot of things paid off personally, all the different things that you got going on. So anyway, before I was to sell, I would make sure that I could do everything that I could responsibly, legally, to show what the company's capable of. We could easily run north of $500,000 gross a year without a problem. Profit margins on average for that, I would like to guess, and again, it's kind of a healthy guess, but my finger's on the pulse somewhere there, so I'll be close enough. But profit margins right around 50%. Okay. Well, that's not terrible. Okay. For most companies, there's always better, there's always bigger, stronger, better, whatever. But if I could achieve that, being honest, I would never lie or be dishonest, but if I could achieve that, that would take probably at least a year or two, because you need some tax returns to back that up. And then the buyer is going to look at the last, 5 to 10 years of tax returns and everything else, be like, hey, what's the difference here? Well, the difference here is because I wanted to sell and add a higher valuation to my company, but to also give you an honest insight, like, hey, this is how we can operate and what we normally operate at. But this also up here is going to be what the potential, what the possibility is. And then once they buy it, they're going to have to decide, do we want to pay a lot more in taxes and keep this thing going how it is, or start doing, everybody does this, everybody, and again, nothing illegal, Mr. IRS, stay off my front porch. I'm just saying there's different ways to show and do and move things, tax deductions, write-offs, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. And the way that you're running a business for personal or internal profit versus setting the
Right.
business up to sell is completely different. So you're 100% correct in the way that you would do that.
Yeah.
Anybody that's coming along looking to buy as an investor or to take over a company, they want to see what the biggest gross number that company can produce
Correct.
per year is. And like you said, in order to do that, you're going to need tax returns and proof of that. Ideally, for multiple years, the stronger you do that, the more, built up your cases for it. But, like you said, there's certain ways you play with the books, you play with the numbers. And again, it's above board, but this is just the process of what goes into, buying and selling these companies. And, again, when you're trying to sell it to someone that wants to just come in and take it over as a business or as an investment, that might be very different too than some of the stuff that you've done, where it's another landscaper selling it to a landscaper, right? Not some portfolio company or some other institution that's just buying it strictly based off of the numbers and what it does, right? Yep. So I totally agree with everything you're saying. And, for a lot of guys that are maybe looking to do that, I think you've offered some great advice. But then also, even from personal experience, like a lot of times the smaller businesses, going to another landscaping company around you is probably a pretty good place to start if you are interested in, exiting, selling off a portion of clients' equipment, whatever, stuff like that.
Yep.
Right on. What systems or structure do you have in place, or like, what do you do? What's the process of when you do acquire another company as far as taking all of those new accounts? I know you broke down the process of 2 cuts, and that's kind of how you're exchanging with the other previous owner. But as far as bringing those new clients and customers on board, getting them, familiar with the way that you do things, and then also integrating that with your guys, your routes, everything else that's already going on. What are some of the steps, especially in the beginning when it's a fresh acquisition, for, setting those things up so we can kind of, business can continue as usual, but now you've got an extra 100 accounts or something like that?
So, well, ideally, how I would like it to happen is that we do the first 2 weeks without making any contact or anything else first. Again, not to be shady, but it needs to be done. Doesn't matter who's doing it. Price is the same, right? We don't ever change the pricing. We buy most of the people out mid to late into the season. Okay. If we ever bought somebody out over the winter, then we might adjust prices before the spring start. I'm not going to, unless it's severely underpriced. And most of the time, if it is, I'm not even going to keep it. I'll give them an option. Hey, this is where we need to be at on price, or we can offer to send you over here because we have a referral list of other owners that could be cheaper as well. But ideally, we start out doing at least 1 or 2 weeks with our crews. Now we can figure out how we need to change the route. We're going to move all of those customers and we use yardbook.com. Highly recommend that as well. So we put everybody in Yardbook, put them all in the different routes on each different day that we need for all the different crews. And then, we at the same time, we're contacting these people, just one big email blast, blind carbon copy, whatever. Hey, my name's Justin. I bought out your old lawn care company, and just give them a couple basic necessary bullet points. I don't want them to have to read one big book. Just basically, hey, this is who I am. This is how you can find us. Check us out. Here's a few of the things that we do, maybe a little bit differently. The first thing that I always start off with is like, hey, your price won't ever change for the rest of this season. Okay. So we make contact, get them into our CRM, and then once they're routed, we start just keep doing that. And after that initial contact email, that's when I'll have Kristen physically phone call each and every one of them and just make a personal relationship with them. She's awesome at that. Like, she connects with everybody. She's a very outgoing person. So she'll call and she'll be like, hey, my name's Kristen. I work for Justin with On My Own Time Lawn Care. I'm the one that you're going to deal with for any sort of billing issues, any kind of damages, any kind of questions, concerns. They're all going to come to the office, and I'm the one in the office that will handle these. So I just want to introduce myself and make sure you didn't have any issues with, the transfer or whatever. And then that's when she'll also, hey, if you would like to stay on, here's the benefits of signing up with us and signing our service agreement. You don't have to, but if you do, it just makes things smoother for all of us on the way out. I'd say 80% of the people will sign the service agreement. We don't have any issues. We don't retain 100% of everybody that we buy out. That again, that's just kind of the risk. And then once they sign the service agreement, that's when we send them the secure link from Yardbook to get their card on file. And so a lot of people love this. Like, wait, I don't have to pay an invoice every time, or I don't have to Venmo you or hide cash on the doorstep. Like, no, like literally, like everything is automated. I don't like, I want you to hire us and never talk to us again unless you have an issue. Like if your card was turned off or if there was damage. I don't like, less contact is best. That's the way to go. So now at this point, they're already signed up with the service agreement. And once they sign that, then I'll call that owner and be, hey man, we got, 10 so far, and I'll just keep them. And then once we're through the whole list, then I'll just go ahead and cut him another check for that last third final service cuts worth that what we need to pay him for. And then from there on, it's pretty much just, back and forth, getting to know each other. And, I'd say most of our customers leave us alone, but we got a couple, either negative Nancy's, Karen's, or just the nosy neighbor, whatever, like, well, what about this? Or how about this? Or can they cut shorter? Or I don't like the day that they come in, and if we can adjust what day or what time we're there, like that's, some people work third shift, some people, I get it. We try to be as accommodating as possible when we're doing all of this. But there are some times when we can't, we don't have an option to do anything different for you. I'm sorry. So, if at that point they need to cancel, they're able to cancel, or if they've already signed the service agreement, I am a stickler. I do stick to that 30 days. Like I give everybody ample opportunity to read this. I don't hide it. It's not fine print. Part of our process on onboarding any customer is you have to go over. Chris and I are the only ones to do it, and both of us do the same thing. You have to go over the cancellation policy. You have to go over how we handle damage, because how we handle damage is we retain the right. They're signing, giving us the right to make everything whole within a timely manner. Before, like, say we busted a door and they called and have a company come repair it, and that company charged them $600. Well, now we have to pay that $600. Well, I got a glass guy that I've used for years, and that would have only cost me about $250. Same glass, same quality material, same professional installation. Just he did it, So how we handle damages, and then also every service agreement is always set to auto renew. So unless you cancel in the off season, you just send us an email, then the first week that we start cutting the next season, no matter what week that is, because everything varies in Missouri, then we just show up. We don't need, now in the springtime, we will send out, hey, welcome to spring. Here's an idea timeline. But we don't send out an email. Hey, can we still cut your grass this year? No. You're our customer from last year. You signed for us to auto renew. So going over all three of those are kind of big, and you want to do that in person on the phone. We have it in different places, at the bottom of our invoice or on the service agreement or on the emails. But sometimes you just got to keep hitting home with the fine points. But that's pretty well how we do or what we do there.
Right on. So I know you mentioned you use Yardbooks as kind of your home base CRM for client communication. You guys do all the contracts and stuff through that as well?
So everything except for the client communication. So that we use, we have Gmail. We use the company business emails through Gmail, or the company phone. People can text us or social media messages, whatever. We can do communication through that, but with the recent Google updates for privacy concerns, we're not going through, I think they call it Twilio or something. Yeah. And so I'm not messing with that. Email, Gmail or text is completely fine. Very accessible. Everybody's got it. But everything else is through Yardbooks, quotes, invoices, cards on file securely, all the customer accounts, all the different properties, all of our pricing. Yardbook is very, very well rounded. I like it. I started on the free version, and then I started doing the paid version, which is only $35 a month. Because the GPS tracking aspect, which that's nice because the guys, when they get there, they have the apps on their phones through Yardbook. And when they get to a property, they have to clock in. Now, that's not their pay time. That's just time tracked on the job, geolocation tracked as well. So when they're done, they clock out of that job and they hit complete. So that way, that allows Kristen to charge it that night. Well, if we ever have a discrepancy or somebody says, well, the guys didn't come by today, or I work from home. My favorite one is I work from home and I didn't hear the mowers one time, but I see my card got charged. Well, you were probably not paying attention. they're not going to lie about it. They're not going to pull up, sit there and drive off. So does the grass look like it's cut? Well, yeah, but I didn't hear them. I didn't see anybody. Well, that's okay. We got GPS trackers on our trucks. We're able to show you. So then I go to Yard Book, grab a screenshot with the coordinates, the time that they're there, they started, they ended, and sit, and nobody can refute that. I mean, what are you, if your grass looks cut, whether you think it does, or if I drive by and say this was definitely cut today, or just there's no way. So the $35 a month is worth it for that. But then also you pay a little bit less on like your Stripe fees, because Stripe is partnered up with Yardbook for the payment processing stuff for the cards. So you pay a little bit less in fees. So the $35 a month that's not even, yes, it's an expense, but for the amount of fee savings we have, plus the added, there's a few other features of Yardbook that I've never even explored or used that are worth even more money than that, So yeah, there's a lot of other great sites or whatever that you want to use. A lot of guys bounce between LMN and Jobber and Yardbook, and then there was one other that I keep forgetting about all the time. But there's and everything's built for different size companies and stuff. I started using Yardbook a long time ago when I had 60 accounts, and like I said, we're a little south of 300 a week right now, but I'm convinced that Yardbook is fine for up to probably 400 to 600 accounts. After that, you might want to get something closer to like LMN. It costs a lot more, but it might be a little bit more seamless for that amount, but if for anybody that's at least 400 a week or less, yardbook.com is well robust enough to handle all those needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely different solutions for different size businesses.
Right.
Sure. I've used a bunch of different ones too, and pretty much have the same thing to say. It's all of them fit whatever criteria you're looking for. There's a bunch of different features for all of them, but at the end of the day too, whatever you can plug your stuff into for your business and feels the most intuitive and that you understand the best too, because that is such a critical piece of your business, whatever one, works for you and you like the way it looks, it doesn't matter why, but if you can use it and you can understand it, and if you can use the tools that are provided to you through that effectively, then go with it. So
oh yeah, yep, I recommend it, and I haven't launched it yet, but like I have been doing some consulting for other small startup owners, and then especially local and across the country. But what I started doing was I started consulting a lot for Yardbook users or new users to Yardbook. So like for a fee for my time, I will help you get this started. I will help you get it up and running. I will help you learn how to use it. Now that tutorials or videos or as how I learned everything, you could take the time to do that. But to have a Zoom call for 2 hours, having somebody that knows most everything about it, that is worth some value, some money. And so I have been using that as a way to generate a little bit of, I guess, side income from all of this, because I'm getting to the point now where I feel like I have learned so many lessons. It's not that I'm that great. Not like, again, I'm not near a professional owner yet, but I'm getting there. I'm not near as young and dumb as what I once was. But if I could charge a small amount of money for the large amount of information that I have to share, then why not, again, just kind of leveraging your assets?
yeah, absolutely. And all of the lessons that you have, all of the knowledge you can give to people, they could learn that on their own, and they can pay with their own time and their own dollar, learn those mistakes themselves. Or like you said, you can pay with money and get that experience, get that knowledge, and maybe avoid a couple screw ups from learning from someone that's already been there, done it, and is a little farther ahead on their journey too. So definitely, regardless of whether you're in the lawn care, software, any industry, that kind of thing can be extremely valuable. And, whatever it takes to get someone on board, that's, even if they're one step ahead of you, there's things that they know that you don't, that you're going to have to learn that lesson either the hard way, or if you can avoid it and learn from them too, then, it's kind of the fast track too.
And that's the thing. Anyone can learn something from anyone as long as they pay attention, right? Like, just because it's a brand, like one of my very first brand new Skag mower sales at the dealership was to his name was Dylan. And just in talking about how he does and what he does, and it was his first year. And I don't remember what it was, but I remember thinking at the time, holy crap, I've never thought about that. Whatever it was that he shared, it really just kind of Now, of course, it didn't stick with me. I forget what it was, but if I put some time and effort into it, I can remember it. But it was something to do with I forget what it was now. But it doesn't matter who you are. You can learn something from a brand new guy just as well as you can learn something from a seasoned old head. I think too many people get caught up in the whole competition thing. Again, it's not because I'm cocky. That's me saying that I'm not cocky. Yes, sometimes I get cocky, but I don't have this opinion because I'm cocky. I don't see other companies as competition. It's not because I'm better or that much more good or anything else, but I see them as a network. So I want to lean on these guys. I could pick up my phone right now and I could call 5 different people and 3 of them would answer and 2 of them would do whatever it is that as long as they're like, hey dude, I had a dump trailer breakdown. Is your dump trailer available? Absolutely. Go get it. Or no, we're not really done with it, but if you need to do a couple loads, that's fine. And I think that that's helped me and a lot of the other owners. And so now we have a pretty solid, good local group of guys that all help each other out, because in the end, we're all walking the same direction. We're all trying to do the same thing, but if we could do it a lot smarter and easier, we can all eat better too,
Exactly. Eat, don't compete.
There you go. I like that. Eat, don't compete. Yep.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that, I don't know if it's just with like blue collar, like, that kind of industry, whatever, but there's a lot of ego. And like you said, there's the guys that have been in the game for 10, 20 years. They think they know everything, and they know a lot. To be fair, they do. They got a lot of experience, and that can't, discredit it at all. But there's more than one way to do things. And sometimes the best answer is taking a little piece of everything and not being so, stuck in your own ways, thinking that
well, to that point, there was an older gentleman that I only knew by reputation and never met him. It's on camera. He is the only one to ever remove one of my lawn signs. We don't have a lot of lawn sign issues with people. People generally respect that. I noticed a lawn sign was missing at one of my commercial accounts. I knew the owners, asked them to check the camera. I knew it was him, never told him that I knew it was him. He didn't like me. He would flip me off, didn't like me. Every time I tried to talk to him, he was always just kind of blow me off, kind of just rude. And then he took the sign, and then I made a post. I didn't call him out. I didn't tag him. He's a Facebook friend of mine. He's off Facebook now, but anyway, he's a Facebook friend of mine. So I knew he was going to see it at some point. Right. And so basically the post was, understand that while it's frustrating to lose one sign out of all the ones that I've put out, I know who did it, and I still love you, and I would like to connect to where we could be and have improve and have a good relationship. Basically, just like remember the old misconnections from Craigslist, like I missed you in Walmart, So he at the next time I saw him, actually came up. He said, "Hey," he's like, "I wanted to." He didn't say apologize. He was trying to apologize without apologizing because he, his ego. You know those kind of guys, right? Yeah. And so, anyways, we walked away from that conversation with a much better, healthier respect for each other. And to this day, knock on wood, I have not had another sign removed, stolen, taken down, or whatever. And then he has since retired. And when he did, he actually called me along with a couple of the other guys. And he said, "Hey," he's like, "I'm going to get out of this." He's like, I have a couple accounts that they're not my favorite or my best accounts, but I want somebody good to take care of them. I don't want anything for them, pretty much because they were all headaches anyways. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was giving me, but I don't think he was doing it nefariously. He just wanted us to take care of them because he knew we were in the area anyway. And some of those customers are still with us, and that was probably 2 or 3 years ago. So you can spin, pivot, reframe how people think about you, how you think about people. And even if you don't get along with the competition right now, if you put some effort in that relationship, it could actually grow and produce something beautiful.
Yeah, and come full circle. Someone that, started off maybe,
right.
Shitting on you a little bit, stealing your signs, whatever.
Right.
Here you are 2 years later servicing some of their clients. So
right.
Interesting how that all works out in the end, huh?
It is.
Absolutely. How are we doing on time? I got like a couple more questions, but I don't want to steal your whole afternoon.
Nope, I'm chilling like a villain, man.
All right, right on. So we're just talking about yard signs. I know earlier too, when we were talking about, acquiring different businesses, making sure that you keep their social profiles, their websites, and how important that is as far as, on Google, taking up that real estate where if someone searches, you've got the top 3, 4, 5, whatever websites.
Yep.
When it comes to marketing, what are some of the things that you guys are actively doing, whether it be physically, like with the signs, stuff like that, or digitally, with websites, SEO, social media, stuff like that?
Um, I'll tell you what I'm doing now. But I would also like to share, just for the people that are listening and paying attention, a lot of the marketing is going to depend on where you're at as to what's going to work, where you're at location wise, but also where you're at with your business. So, for a new guy starting out, I would definitely recommend spending some money on having a professional get your online presence established, whether it's on the free Facebook business pages or you pay, like Gary Guyman. I don't know if you know who he is, but he is like the top. Like if I had to pay, and I've paid him in the past to actually help me with my Google, but he is the Google guy, right? And then like you have guys like David Carroll that does right now his focus is dope marketing, where he does signs and stuff for trade service businesses and stuff, but he is like the Facebook guy, right? So, and all these guys, of course, they're trying to sell their services to you for their marketing. You need to pay them. It costs a lot of money. I get that, but vet out these people and pay attention to what they post, what they do. Gary will probably never watch this or know that I'm talking about him, but I'd like to give a shout out to him because he posts daily golden nuggets of content that like I'll read and be like, holy crap, I need to do that. Or wow, I can't believe I didn't think about that. You know what I mean? So you could definitely benefit from paying somebody once you've vetted and making sure, because there's, marketing guys are a dime a dozen, right? So you want to make sure that you're going to get somebody that does what you want, how you want within your budget, that kind of thing. Now, once you're established, I don't pay for any marketing. When I say that, what I mean is I used to spend $1,800 a year on an LED digital billboard. Okay. I used to put out close to 100 yard signs. I used to boost Facebook posts. Then I learned not to waste my money like that, which that aspect has changed because now you can kind of fine tune that. So that's not as bad as what it used to be in the, years ago. Defining your target audiences, stuff like that, your locations, everything. But like, we really don't, a lot of it is, in my opinion, 80% of the people calling us are calling us because they've heard of us, because they know about us, because they want to hire us. They're not calling us because they're just going down the Google list results. They're not calling us price shopping, whatever. We still get some of those, sure. But I think consistent, regular posts is the best, most free way to get more business. And again, you can't just sit there and post, hire me, I cut grass. You have to make it engaging, some engaging content. And again, posting about dogs, pets, animals, whatever. I posted on my personal page, not on the company page, but my wife, she raises, we got chickens, ducks, bunnies, dogs, cats. We got almost a whole mini farm out here, right? I posted a tiny brand new newborn bunny crawling around, hopping on my shirt, on my chest. And that video has almost got over 5,000 different reactions, likes, views, which isn't big for like marketing guys, but for somebody like me, like, wow, holy crap. Like, I feel like I'm almost internet famous now, but just posting different stuff like that, but consistently. Don't just post when you need more work, post then. So that's the best way to do it for free. You can hire professionals to help you do it. As long as they're vetted and they know what to do and they're worth your money. And to help you get established, I would come off that money to make that happen. So it slingshots you ahead. So you get a better rolling start. You got more momentum there. So basically, instead of launching off the line with highway tires and a Corvette, you're launching off an all-wheel drive Subi that's got some slicks on it, right? So, yard signs, they're worth the money, in my opinion. They're worth the money whether you're brand new or you're established. I don't think you could go wrong with those. Billboards, that's to be honest, man, I spent the $1,800 a year on that billboard for like 2 or 3 years in a row. I don't know that I can actually say that it landed me any work or any new jobs. Like nobody told us, nobody mentioned it. That honestly, I hope my wife doesn't listen to this, but honestly, that was more like an ego thing because like I had the money to do it. Might as well do it. I feel cool because I'm on a billboard. But then, like I said, after 2 or 3 years, I'm like, hey, this is kind of a stupid waste of money. So let's not do that. So there's different levels of business types, owners where they're at. There's going to be different marketing aspects that work best. But, and everybody's like, oh, word of mouth is the best. Well, how do you track that? How do you know? You can be referred all the time. Honestly, I think talking about referrals, the best thing that we do is we started paying $50 or $50 invoice credit, depending on if they're a customer or not. But anybody who signs up with us for weekly lawn care and they mention somebody's name, like, oh, so-and-so told me about them, they're getting $50. If they're a customer, I'll do an invoice credit if they want. Otherwise, I'll send them the money or I'll drop it off, whatever. But I mean, honestly, you think about the cost of your customer acquisition. How much is that? How much are you paying in marketing to, if you're paying, $1,000 for this marketing campaign, you get 10 customers from that. You got $100 into a brand new customer. How many times you got to cut that grass for them now for it to break even? And that's if they stick around, right? On a new company, that's a little difficult. Retention is not as common with new companies it is for established companies. So you got to be careful. Like these new guys that are starting, they're like, oh, I just dropped $5,000 on an email campaign. Buddy, nobody's going to open them emails. Like, are you like, does it work? Will it work? Yes. I'm not saying it's a waste of money. It's more rare. I would rather see somebody spend $5,000 on yard signs and professional company shirts. That right there is going to get the attention of people spending the money with you more than a random email list that somebody got from the post office or, whatever. So what I do right now is I try to post kind of regularly, consistently to the different Facebook pages, definitely to the Google. Google is the number one for us. And honestly, Google will provide Google is always evolving and self-changing and everything else. But from what I've learned, and I don't claim to be a Google expert, but reviews are the biggest thing because that's what adds to your trust and relevancy score. And so if Google trusts you and if you're more relevant in Google's opinion, they're going to put your company in front of whoever's searching, regardless of ads or reviews or anything else. But reviews add to that. And so my goal is to get 2 new reviews every month, minimum. We try for more, but minimum. And I ask everybody all the time, can we have your honest review? Even if it's not a perfect 5-star, I think that's shady. I look up a company and they got all 5-star reviews. Something's not right there. That's not accurate. So I leave my bad reviews. Now, when you get a review, the best thing to do, though, is always professionally respond. Whether it's bad or good, doesn't matter. So getting the reviews on Google, posting to Google. A lot of people don't realize that you can have a Google business profile that you actually can post to, like social media, like Facebook and stuff like that. So I think that is an underutilized tool that people just don't realize and they don't know about. But Google, a few yard signs here and there. We don't do near as many as what we used to. The billboard's done and ran out. We're not doing that anymore. But we still get anywhere from 30 to 40 phone calls, text, emails every single weekday that we're sorting through. And a lot of the stuff, if it's not in our area, I think we send out more leads than what we keep and use for ourselves on a weekly basis. But again, we're established. It's easier for people to find us, to see us. So that's what we do. But for people starting out, trying to get their reputation up or trying to get based or whatever, I think, spending some of that money. And again, if I wanted to really try to grow and be bigger, I'm not opposed to spending money to pay a professional to do my SEO, to do my Facebook marketing campaigns, all this other stuff. We're just not at that point. I just don't really need or want that at this point. We get to where we're at a crossroads, like, hey, do we maintain or are we going to actually grow and level up? You better believe I'm going to be talking to Gary and David and a couple of the other guys that I've met over the years. And these guys, they just, like I said, they're always posting little nuggets of valuable information. So just following and watching what works for other people, trying it isn't ever going to hurt you.
100%.
Unless you're going to come off a large amount of money before you vet somebody and then they scam you and keep your thousands of dollars.
Unfortunately, it happens,
Yep.
and obviously part of what I do is, marketing, coaching, consulting, teaching people all the same stuff. So everything that you just said checks out. And I honestly would echo the same thing. A lot of it does depend on where you're at with your company and also the intention of where you're trying to go. If you want to grow, then yeah, it makes sense to put some money into a campaign or, to tinker with things in the online space, whatever, and get that shown more. But also if you're at a place where you want to optimize for profitability, that's completely different. So 100%, you do reach those crossroads. And also, for the guys that are just getting started, having a Facebook page with some posts on it, whether that's all your work or some more personal stuff mixed in,
Right.
letting people get to know you a little bit. The physical marketing side of things, the yard sign stuff like that, never had any. You should be doing that no matter what. And then the biggest thing is, like you said, incentivizing people with the referral program. That is huge, and that can help any business no matter what size they are, because negative word of mouth will spread like wildfire, but positive word of mouth, especially for a new company, that's going to take a long time to really start to build up to a point where, like you said, you've got leads coming to you, people that are saying, hey, I know about you guys, I want to work with you, coming to you directly, right? Versus someone that's just getting started out. The compounding of their reputation hasn't caught up yet. So they need to kind of, give their new customers a reason why they should go out and do a little bit of marketing for you. And oftentimes, whether it's discounting services or, $50 or a Starbucks gift card, whatever it is, to just kind of get that process rolling really helps a lot. And the stuff you're talking about with Google too, absolutely. Reviews are a huge factor, mostly for the Google business profile. Something that some guys may or may not know is when you have your Google business profile, and inside of that, it's linked with your Facebook, your Instagram, and your website. All the activity that's happening on those other platforms can affect that ranking as well. For Google business profiles specifically, reviews, 5-star reviews obviously help the most, but also there's the quantity of those reviews as well. That'll help the ranking of your Google business profile. Because you have that profile linked with your website, more reviews on your profile can get your website to show up higher in that organic section underneath too. And then also, if you have a Facebook page that has thousands of followers and you're making posts there, and those are getting seen by thousands of people, and there's a link to your website in that post that gets a lot of engagement, that can boost up your website ranking as well. So Google is smart, and Google can go outside of Google, look at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, which obviously is a, sister company of Google. It's all of these different platforms, they communicate with each other and they work together. So, a lot of guys just getting started, maybe you don't have the time, effort, money, resources to invest in all of these things at once, but there is a degree where once you have that, the capacity to do so, having omnipresence is really important, because all of those things feed each other and they send each other signals that kind of boost you up across the board. And, another thing that we do specifically is, obviously we work on our client sites, and we'll get those clients as high as possible in the search results as we can. But then also we can create other websites and other digital assets that we can then rank underneath those and kind of replicate what you were talking about, where when you buy a company out, they've got their website, you've got your own company website, and all those things are there existing, taking up real estate on that front page when people search for lawn care, landscaping near me, etc. So just, at the end of the day, omnipresence, eyeballs, impressions, taking up as much space digitally and physically as possible. If you cover all of that, obviously there's levels to it, but whatever you can afford to invest in, whatever you think makes sense for the level of business that you're at, go for it, because I don't think it's really going to hurt you. So
right, exactly.
Right on. How do you think the current economic situation has affected your business? Have you guys had to change or raise prices or lower prices at all, paying people like labor wise? Because everything is we're in a very rocky boat, so to speak, right now. And some guys have already, reported, just from me having conversations like this, obviously my network of landscaping guys, different, very different, mixed signals from everybody. Some of them are like, don't really notice too much. Some guys are very vocal about, yeah, this has been like probably the worst year out of the past several as far as getting new clients. People don't want to spend money. So have you felt any impact like that with your business or?
I would say like that, no. But there has definitely been a shift. Doesn't feel like it's as good as what it was a few years ago. We had some really great golden years there. But at least now this way we don't have no more mean tweets, I guess. But it's definitely been different for sure. I wouldn't say that we've seen anything negative or bad, but I will say, and I was talking to a couple of owners about this, in the last several months and stuff. It definitely was a shift in who is spending the money. I see a lot of the people who typically wasn't spending money or as much money. Now those types of people, they're wanting to pay us more money to do more. Like, hey, I want to go ahead and add monthly weed maintenance to my beds, or hey, we're going to actually have you do the landscape this year, or even like with the Christmas lights, like people that like have said no year after year after year are now reaching out. So, and I don't know, it's not like I'm not aware of any other handouts or assistance or anything else like we had a couple of years ago, but it just seems like the people who have money and have been spending the money, they're now way more conservative than what they were. And now the people that haven't been spending the money, that really hasn't had extra money to spend, now they're somehow having the money and spending the money. So like I said, maybe there's a program or assistance that I'm not aware of, but the number, the money, the dollar amount hasn't really changed from year to year. It's been pretty consistent over the last several years. It's just who is spending that money that's where I've kind of noticed the difference. And I don't fully understand or whatever. I got a little excited. I wouldn't say excited. I got a little concerned this spring. We had 1 week in the very beginning of spring when we were first starting to cut grass. We dropped more customers. We had more customers drop us than any other spring. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. This is it. This is going to be the bad year. Ain't gonna be no pizza parties this year, no new mowers this year. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It was just either the timing of the spring versus money, whatever else, all the factors. There's so many variables. But then the very next week, we also added a lot more than what we've normally added too. So overall, we are up in general. Overall, gross per week on lawn care. We have sold out more. We have sold more landscape this spring than we typically do on average. For the springtime. So while we haven't seen a negative impact, I would definitely agree that things have been different, and there was a definite shift in, I think, who was spending what amounts. And I don't know what would cause that, but obviously the current economics of our country is, impacting that, but I just don't know how or to what degree.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because the way that you said it, you would almost expect it to kind of be the opposite, where maybe the affluent areas.
At least so I don't have an explanation. I don't have an idea to explain why the people are spending more money who, in my opinion, haven't in the past, or they shouldn't be right now. But I do have an idea as to why the people who typically spend more money and they've slowed down. I think those are the people that are more in tune with the markets. They're more in tune. They have more money. They have more to lose. They have more to gain. So like, I think of those people as maybe not stock market day traders, but I think those people pay attention to the markets. And myself, I'm expecting another 2008 crash at any point. There's no way that we can keep going forward how we are without another crash, whether it's as bad or worse than 2008. I'm not a professional. I'm not claiming to be, but I'm just saying I am prepared for at any point in the next year or two, most likely, just with me and my tinfoil hat, sometime around election time, right? But there's got to be something that finally gives, because people can't continue on like this. Like this is not a sustainable economy for what we're doing, how we're doing. And I'm not even going to go down the rabbit trail of how many billions of dollars we've wasted and sent overseas instead of helping our own people out here. I'll mention it. I just won't go down that rabbit trail. We'll be here till 6 p.m. if I go down there, but we're not here for my tax spending opinion anyways. But no, I think that those people are probably maybe have the same thought process as what I do. It's just that, hey, let's just kind of keep and hang on to a little, because the other thing is I don't want to go out and spend, this year I'm due up to buy 4 new mowers. There's a couple trucks that I could replace. Do I need them? Do I have to do it? No, I don't. Why am I not doing it? Because I want to be able to pivot if or when the next crash is, no matter when, how bad it is. That's prime buying time. So I don't want to be cash poor and have an opportunity in front of me like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have bought them mowers. No, these guys can use these mowers. They're, like I said, they're only about 2-3 years old at max. So these guys can keep using these old mowers till the opportunity is done and passed and over for me to possibly buy a couple more rental properties, or, maybe a bigger shop on more property or something. We don't need that, but that's the time to buy, whether I buy it to flip later or not, So I think that that's why a lot of the people aren't spending as much as what they had been for the people who typically spend that money.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of scary because obviously, the education difference, or like you said, the types of people that maybe have some more resources are slightly more in tune with some of the things that are happening. But like you said, bro, it's what goes up comes down, and the economy as a whole has been up and straight up and kept going up for too long for something not to happen. Right. And obviously, like you said, when things inevitably, go down or collapse a little bit, to what degree, who knows, but it's going to be a fire sale. You got to buy when there's blood in the streets. So like you said, to kind of preserve some of your resources and set yourself up, and especially as a business owner, thinking a little bit further ahead than normal at a time like this might be your best interest. So, kind of keeping some, like you said, cash reserves, keeping some, spending as low as possible, and just letting things kind of develop a little more before you make any crazy investments in yourself, your business, lifestyle, whatever.
I'm not saying I'm sitting over here pinching pennies, not buying anything. I'm going to, this year I've committed to no extra excess frivolous spending. I don't have to upgrade these mowers. They don't have, the mower that I have, we run 9 different mowers. And the one that's the oldest with the most hours, I think, is just now at like either 1,000 or 1,100, which is a fair amount of hours, but it's not anything terrible. So we could definitely get another year, maybe 2 out of that if we had to. So I'm just trying to be as wise as I can in case, I have the right things in place for when the opportunity comes. But then also the same thing, maybe it's not property, houses, or anything else that I'm buying to flip. Maybe it's buying out other owners that they weren't as prepared, or they are tired of this, or it was a good opportunity for them to get out because customers were dropping like flies. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just want to leave myself to where I can kind of pivot and do something to a good size regard if I ever needed to. And then there'll be other years where I'll have to pass on great opportunities because I don't have the money. I can't swing it, but I also have a brand new fleet of mowers or brand new trucks or whatever else might be. So kind of got to just pick your poison.
Absolutely. So great follow-up question. Do you think that the landscaping and lawn care business is recession proof?
To a degree, I think I think some of it can be recession proof, but which is not the same. So my first thoughts when you ask that is, yeah, absolutely. There's always a need for lawn care and landscape. Now, that's going to get rid of most of your residential customers, no matter what, right? Because if there's a recession, they're going to cut their own grass, or they're just not going to cut it. The competition is going to be very fierce and stiff at this point, but like commercial accounts is where I see essentially recession proof, right? So those companies, businesses, they will have to be wise with the money that they're spending because not many people are spending money with them, but they have to have their properties maintained no matter what. So to a degree, in some form or fashion, lawn care, landscape, mostly landscape, Well, no, I guess equal parts for the commercial and the commercial aspect. I would say that yes, in a broad general sense, um, I think that it could partially be recession proof. I don't know how to word what my thoughts are right now. I'm sorry that I'm struggling, but um, as a whole, if a recession happens, is our industry going to be fine? Or are all of our buddies and our competition and our network going to be fine? Absolutely not. It's going, there's going to be a lot of guys drop like flies. There's going to be a lot of people that's going to be hurting really bad. The ones who plan prepared, who have better cash reserves, who are better suited to take on a lot of the commercial work, those are the guys that are going to come out on top to where it's kind of recession proof for them. But the industry as a whole being recession proof, no, it's just going to be the ones that are, what is it? Natural selection, right? So it's just going to come down to survival of the fittest.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, similar to what we were just saying about the clients, where maybe the ones that are a little more affluent are the ones that are maybe thinking or paying attention to these kind of things and preparing for it. A lot of times when stuff like this was to happen, the bigger companies are going to get bigger and swallow up all the guys that weren't prepared. So it's like, okay, as a business owner, you need to be on that side of the fence too, where if you aren't thinking ahead, aren't preparing, whatever, it's going to affect you. And to what degree is, right. I don't want to say it's in your control, but you can educate yourself and do the best that you can, make the right choices. But I definitely, the smaller guys are going to get hurt the most because, like you said, where there is some buffer with the commercial accounts, the bigger entities, the bigger enterprise businesses, whether they do lawn care, landscaping, tree service, whatever it is, those guys, because they're so established, they have a little bit of a buffer too. So, I think that the big players will take a hit, but probably be okay. It's the small and medium sized guys that there's going to be a lot of scrambling around, and but the guys that hopefully take the time to do what they can will be all right. But said business is war, man. It's survival of the fittest, and you really got to make sure that you do what you can to make sure that you end up where you want to be and where you want to go. So
for sure,
we can speculate forever, but
right. And that's all it is. Till it happens, you could have the most money, you can have the best plan. One thing goes south, sideways, it doesn't align with what you had planned or what you had saved up for, and you're just as bad off as the next guy.
Yep, 100%. So last question, and it's actually going to be asking you to ask a question. So the next person that we have on the podcast, what's something you'd want to know from them? It'll most likely be a landscaping business owner, someone like yourself.
That's a really good question. Props to you for that. That's pretty good.
Actually, I stole that from another podcast, but I figured
I like that.
Integrating that, make it interesting.
Ask me your question again.
What is a question that you would want to ask the next person that comes on the show, podcast, whatever? It can be,
it's generally going to be another landscape lawn care owner.
Yep.
I want to know what their daily routine is, how they manage their work-life balance, but the biggest thing is how they stay motivated, driven, and keep their energy up. And I ask that, and I want to know that because that's what I'm on a mission to find out, because as I've gotten older, I'm 34, and as I've gotten older, my energy, and of course, physical, body, everything, stress, there's so many factors and variables. I get that. But what I want to try to find out is how I can improve myself and level up on things that I can control and do, right? I'm not the guy that wakes up at 5 a.m., does a workout, takes an ice bath, and journals for 30 minutes before starting my day, and I'm on fire all day. I'm the guy that, mainly just kind of rolls out of bed at 7 o'clock, has a coffee just enough time to talk to the guys before they go out. You know what I mean? So like, I want to know from other guys in or near my level, if that makes sense, what it is that they do and how they do and why they do it. Because like I said, I've tried, different, and I'm not whining, I'm not complaining. I've had a help along the way, but there has to be just like collaboration with pricing, there has to be something, and we don't need to get into the whole mental health thing, but like mental health is a real thing for everybody. Everybody has a different level of ADD or ADHD or mental health or depression or anxiety, any of that kind of stuff. Nobody is safe from any of that. So what are other owners doing to negate that and to be able to overcome and to keep leveling up and bettering themselves instead of being crippled by it or anything like that? Because my biggest thing is, how can I get back to 25-year-old energy? And I'm not looking for not looking for like a magic pill, like the TRT or the special fad diets or whatever. Just in general, what do most owners resort to? That's not, oh, I smoke a pack of Reds a day and I smoke weed at night and I drink a 12 pack, while I'm working. I'm not asking for how you cope with vices. I'm asking for what you do, so, the health and wellness and mental health balance and stuff like that.
Okay. Awesome. Based off of that question, I got a couple people on my list that I think will probably be the best candidates to answer that. So I'll reach out to them
There you go.
I'll report back. I'll definitely send you or send you the next one so you can hear what their answer is to that. But yeah, man. Justin, thank you so much for your time. Dude,
Sure.
You've offered a lot of really great insight. I think this was definitely probably one of the more valuable episodes. A lot of really, really cool stuff. And awesome to see it from kind of someone that's at a little bit of a higher level than probably 90% of the guys that I'm working with and I'm talking to.
Right.
And, great to kind of, again, get it from someone that's maybe one step ahead. And that's really great. So again, thank you for your time, man. And it was an absolute.
Thank you. But honestly, I had a lot of fun. You had a lot of great questions. It was valuable for me. I like to share things, and when somebody asks me about the past or the history, like it brings up, emotions, memories, and then like there's other things that I made a list of things that like I forgot about that I want to do. That now I got this list that's fresh in my mind. I'm gonna go out and do it. So if nothing else, having me onto your podcast to help other owners actually is helping me myself. So I appreciate that. It was definitely a good time.
Sweet. Right on, man. Well, on that note, where can people find you? I'll have everything when we post this and we chop it up into the clips, whatever. I'll
Sure.
make sure that you're tagged and everything and people can find that. But if you want to just go ahead and plug it now, website,
Yep.
Facebook, all that stuff, just let them know.
Okay, cool. So TroyLawnCare.com. That's the main website for all the different companies. So that everything gets funneled there. All of our office contact information is there. But I have professional mode on my profile, on my Facebook profile. So, if people want to reach out, other owners want to reach out, whatever, just, Justin Chesser on Facebook. And it's either going to be a picture of me in tactical gear and firearms or a sexy woman and two sweet kids is my profile picture. So search until you find that, I guess. But no, the website, I got a link tree, but I don't have that code or anything that I can share right now. I can send that to you later if you want for links. But the link tree has all of our different main businesses, and it's not fully updated with like the charity stuff and everything, but people can actually kind of go to that. And that's why we have it, is the link tree is able to kind of show all the different things that we're kind of into and the information and stuff. But honestly, just hit me up on Facebook on my profile, or just going to TroyLawnCare.com just send us contact information if they want to connect or whatever.
All right. Right on. Well, sweet guys, we'll wrap it up there. For those of you watching, tuning in, I hope you got something valuable from it, and we'll catch you in the next one. All right. Peace.